Of your business with aircomfort.com. 80 years of quality mechanical solutions for your business. And time to check the roads in our Guardian Security Services Traffic Center. Here's Jim Talamonte. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning, Mike. On Chicago's west side, there's a fire in the 800 block of Colin Avenue. It's right at Chicago Avenue in Colin, near Costner. Downtown Balboa is blocked off between Columbus and Lakeshore Drive to set up for the NFL Draft, which is 10 days away. Grays Lake, starting today, the intersection of Atkinson and Center is shut down in all directions until April 24th. Expressways and tollways look pretty good right now, with the exception of the Indiana Toll Road, which has long-term resurfacing, only one lane open in each direction and stretches of Porter and the Port counties, and there are significant delays each way. Traffic is a service of Hum by Verizon. Hum by Verizon is the technology designed to make your car smarter, safer, and more connected. It's easy. Just plug it in. You'll get vehicle diagnostics, emergency assistance, and pinpoint roadside assistance. Get some peace of mind and a smarter, safer, more connected car. Visit hum.com now. Traffic answers when you need them most. Jim Talamonte on AM 560, The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer starts next. Your official Chicagoland weather forecast from the aircomfort.com Weather Center. 80 years of quality mechanical solutions for your business. Here's our meteorologist, Kevin Snyder.
Today, partly sunny, high 81. Tonight, mostly cloudy, low 49. Cooler tomorrow with partial sunshine and an afternoon shower in spots with a high of 62. I'm Kevin Snyder on AM 560, The Answer.
Currently 54 at O'Hare, 53 along the lakefront. Next news coming up at 5:30. And Chicago's Morning Answer starts next on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Real Estate Revealed with Randy Barcella. Heard each and every Sunday at 8 a.m. on AM 560, The Answer.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Good morning, Dan. And in for Amy this morning is Chicago Tribune columnist John Cass. John, pleasure.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get your taxes in? Taxes are due today.
Yeah.
You filed?
Filed last week.
Uh-huh.
Early. I'm thinking I've got a proposal, though.
A proposal?
Change the date of the elections to the day we file taxes and no withholdings. Everyone write a check to your government, and then you can vote.
Those are two very simple reforms that would be appropriate. I think people would have a new appreciation for taxation. Milton Friedman, actually, has spent most of his career trying to make up for the fact that he was instrumental in crafting the withholding system. That was he worked for the U.S. Treasury for a while, and he was instrumental.
You don't even notice it. What is it? I still get a paycheck.
Well, I mean, especially if you're Michelle and Barack Obama, it turns out that the Obamas paid taxes at a lower rate than Warren Buffett's secretary, which is the threshold for you getting away with
outrage.
Yeah, for not paying your fair share. Obama paid 18% in federal tax of his $436,000, their household income, $436,065, $436.65, and the effective tax rate just 18%.
Are the vacations taxed? Because if I want to send Betty and the boys on a all-expense trip paid to some Spanish castle or to South America,
if somebody else was financing it. That would be income for you.
Right.
That is public service for the Obamas.
Got it.
Yeah. Do you see the difference?
My mind is small this morning.
That helps. So there you go. 436, 18%. He got a $22,000 refund. So, yeah. Yeah. How about that?
That'll pay for a round of golf the next time an American gets beheaded.
It'll help. That's make some mortgage payment on that compound that Penny Pritzker is buying for him in Hawaii, where he's going to retire after his term is up the end of the year.
No, well, he's not. And he'll have the presidential suite in the Havana Pritzker Hotel, right?
Villa in Havana.
Right.
Sure, I like it. 18%. Just want to make note of that, pass the word, because this is the fair share crowd. This is the 1%ers, and they may just be below 1%ers now, but they're still pretty close. And boy, is this. But I suppose Obama, being the left, how they self-flagellate, they pretend to, would say, I'm just as outraged about this as you are. This is terrible.
It's the system that has to be changed.
Yeah, I mean, now, point of order, he could write a check to the federal government for all $436,000 worth of income that his household derived in 2015 if he wanted to. Nobody's stopping him. If you want to pay more in federal taxes, the IRS will take the check.
Aren't you being a little unfair to the president? I mean,
I'm just
it's a typical right-wing attack on Mr. Obama, who's done so much for this country.
Yeah.
I mean, what about all the Obama phones he gave everybody who needed it? I'm just thinking maybe you're a little over the top.
Right. Well, thank you for the restraint. I mean, I'm just reporting the numbers, but I guess
18%.
I guess
that's a mutza right there.
Black and white numbers are offensive in these times. Speaking of that, did you ever read the book? You're a man of letters. You're a learned individual. You read.
I had to get an education rather than be given one.
You earned it.
As Lincoln said, one gets an education.
Yes.
Right. But anyway, that meant I read Thackeray on my own when I was 20.
I'm impressed.
I should have shot myself that.
Did you read Tom Wolfe's Radical Chic and Mowing of
the
Flat Catchers?
Because there's nothing like watching rich people pretend to be liberals.
Well, the great scene in that book, as detailed in a way only Tom Wolfe can, of course, is the Black Panther fundraiser at Leonard Bernstein's well-appointed, magnificent condo apartment,
30-foot ceilings,
and
everything.
Right. Yeah, you get the kind of the opulent Park Avenue condo you would think Leonard Bernstein would have, and he did. And there's this exchange that Tom Wolfe recounts because he showed up to the party clandestinely, and where Bernstein, the great composer, comes down and he talks to one of the Black Panthers for whom they're having this fundraiser back in the 60s. And he says, look at this all around us. Aren't you offended by this? And the Black Panther says, well, no. He kind of shrugs his shoulders, kind of like an off-putting comment. Aren't you offended by what I have coming from the owner of the place? Right. And Bernstein says, well, I am. I'm offended by what I have. Well, we had a Leonard Bernstein moment with George Clooney over the weekend.
What happened?
George Clooney.
Did he buy a used codpiece from Eldridge Cleaver? Because that's what. Remember, Eldridge Cleaver went on to sell codpieces. That was amazing. Anyway, I'm sorry.
No, that would be a nice nice inclusion in kind of Radical Chic Revisited, which I think this is setting up for. So the dopey George Clooney, he's hosting fundraisers for Hillary Clinton, like $350,000 a couple, and
obscene.
Yeah, well, he was asked by Chuck Todd on Meet the Press about these fundraisers and also the Bernie supporters that were protesting along the streets leading up to George Clooney's palace, and we'll get to them in a second. But here's George Clooney responding to Chuck Todd about the amount of money. Isn't it just terrible?
$353,000 a couple to be a co-chair. Do you look at it yourself and think that's an obscene amount of money?
Yes. I think it's an obscene amount of money. I think that, we had some protesters last night when we pulled up in San Francisco, and they're right to protest. They're absolutely right. It is an obscene amount of money. The Sanders campaign, when they talk about it, is absolutely right. It's ridiculous that we should have this kind of money in politics. I agree completely.
Yeah.
So why'd you do it?
He is.
So why
look,
did you
there's
do it?
nobody who finds what he's doing more disgusting than he does. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to stop. But he finds it just obscene and just terrible, the hand-wringing over it. But this is what it's come to. So he believes that Bernie has a point.
In other words, he wants to be huggable to Bernie even though he's with Hillary. That's what he wants.
Well, right. And
he's such a wimp, he can't even stand up and say, yeah, I'm throwing her a fundraiser. It costs $350,000 for each couple to be, part of it.
Well, it also, right, because he has to emote guilt about his wealth and about the money he's raising and the connections he has.
check your Clooney privilege, man.
Yeah, well said. Well, here's the other thing. There's not too much money in politics. There's too much government for sale, but Clooney likes it that way. And the left doesn't make those connects.
You know what would be great? If you and I had gone there and we could write for Vanity Fair, right, which would be the magazine we'd write for.
Correct.
You and me, right?
Well, Tom
with our
Wolfe,
skinny jeans on.
I would be happy if just Tom Wolfe was invited so he could write the sequel.
To be in there to see all these other people, right, and what they're saying and what they're doing. Man.
That'd be fascinating. Could you imagine having conversations with the Hollywood A-list about public policy at George Clooney's place for a $350,000 per couple fundraiser for the Cackler?
Hey, Harvey Weinstein, what do you think of all these people getting shot in the streets of Chicago every day?
Oh, I think it's terrible. Somebody should do something about that. You know what? They should ban guns or something. Here's the other thing about that fundraiser. Hillary Clinton's motorcade, as it was making its way up to Clooney's castle, Bernie protesters throwing dollar bills at the motorcade. Pretty good stuff and pretty entertaining stuff, but not to one Joy Ann Reid. This is one of these fungible hosts on MSNBC. I don't know who she is, but here was Joy Ann Reid describing the scene. And
okay,
well,
that's what it is.
As if in a strip club, or as if at a Goldman Sachs retreat.
Ah, nice.
And let me just say
Golden pole.
Let me just say something to Joy Ann Reid. Look, as if in a strip club, Bill Clinton is not the only one who wants Hillary Clinton fully clothed at all time. Please never, ever use strip club and Hillary Clinton in the same sentence again.
You've made the switch, and it feels so good. You've switched to Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Today it's going to be partly sunny and very warm, high in the 80s. So
weather.
And this is the weather. Mostly cloudy tonight, low of 51, and tomorrow cooler with a partial sunshine and afternoon shower in spots, high of 63, low tomorrow night, 50. And now for the traffic. Who's doing the traffic? Jim Talamonte?
Good morning, John. It is. Good morning, Dan. Got a fire going on Chicago's west side near Chicago Avenue and Costner. It's in the 800 block of Coland Avenue. Careful in that area. Downtown Balboa is already blocked off between Columbus and Lakeshore Drive for NFL Draft, April 28th, and the surrounding Draft Town activities. Expressways and tollways look pretty good for the most part on the Illinois side. Little road work on the Tri-State southbound. Calsag Bridge to Crawford, 2 right lanes closed till 6 this morning. Eastbound Adams Tollway from Lee to Manheim, 2 left lanes are closed till 6 a.m. Getting a little heavy on westbound 190 at O'Hare. Of course, you have resurfacing delays on the Indiana Toll Road in Porter and LaPorte counties. Jim Talamonte, Guardian Security Services Traffic Center.
The big DuPage County Home Remodeling Expo, a free home show that's open to the public, is coming to the Odeum Expo Center this weekend only. If you're looking to remodel your kitchen, bathroom, basement, or maybe get a new roof, flooring, windows, or siding, then this is the event for you. At this 2-day expo, you'll meet local and national contractors displaying their products and services. Get new ideas, set up estimates, and talk directly with contractors, many of which are offering huge discounts. Maybe you need a new furnace, state-of-the-art generator, or just a handyman. You'll find everything you need under one roof. Increase the value of your home and bring your friends and family. Special announcement! Attend this free home show and get a free gift at the door. You heard it right, that's a free gift at the door. Remember, the DuPage County Home Remodeling Expo this weekend only at the Odeum Expo Center in Villa Park. Get more information at homeshowevent.com. That's homeshowevent.com.
I'm Nick Soboleski, a Select Quote agent with a true story that could save you hundreds of dollars a year. A woman named Linda just called. Her husband, Ray, has a $300,000 group life insurance policy, but is changing jobs and can't take it with him. Well, I impartially shopped the highly rated term life insurance companies we represent and found Ray, who is 41 and takes medication to control his cholesterol, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for under $26 a month. That's almost twice the coverage for less than half of what he had paid. If SelectQuote hasn't shopped for your life insurance, you're probably paying too much.
For your free quote, call 1-800-467 1-800-467-1443. That's 1-800-467-1443. 1-800-467-1443. Or go to selectquote.com. We shop. You save. Get full details on the example policy at selectquote.com/commercials. Your price can vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors not available in all states.
You know the name Barbara Walters. Now remember the company, Ameritrust Mortgage.
Ameritrust Mortgage was formed along with a talented professional staff that makes your mortgage process easy, swift, and cost-efficient for you, the home buyer, and for those who refinance. Ameritrust is all-inclusive, start to finish, the way lending should be. At Ameritrust, we believe it has been our privilege to have helped thousands of people over 30 years with purchasing or refinancing their home. We are here to help. Let us customize a loan program for your specific needs, FHA, VA, or conventional. At Ameritrust, the responsibility belongs to me. It's my name on the door. I am the president. I am Barbara Walters. Call Ameritrust now, 815-459-7303. Again, that number is 815-459-7303. Or visit us at am560myhome.com.
Ameritrust Mortgage is an equal housing lender. Illinois Residential Mortgage Licensee number 720. NMLS number 217229.
AM 560. The Answer.
Good morning, Dan, and Chicago Tribune columnist John Cassing in for Amy this morning. And, John, we were talking about Bernie Sanders supporters ridiculing Hillary Clinton on her way to George Clooney's palace to raise all kinds of bucks over the weekend. But Saturday Night Live also did a bit of parodying of their own of both Hillary and Bernie from last week's debate in Brooklyn. And very difficult to write the comedy with those two because they're caricatures of themselves. But they tried, and they brought back kind of a little mini Seinfeld reunion with Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Elaine asking questions from the audience. But my favorite line, Larry David as Bernie.
Wolf, I won 1,000,000 debates. When people hear my message, it resonates loud and clear because I always talk like I'm on the other side of a river.
That's pretty good.
That's good.
I think you captured it well. And then Elaine Bennis had a question for Bernie Sanders, Larry David, on breaking up the banks.
Our first question comes from a longtime New Yorker. She's worked in publishing, and her name is Elaine Bennis.
Two questions. My first is for Senator Sanders.
I couldn't hear the question.
Yeah, I didn't ask it yet, Bernie. So listen, you've been pretty vague in the past, but how exactly are you going to break up the big banks?
You mean a big bank breakup?
Yeah, a big bank breakup.
Yeah, break them up!
How?
Once I'm elected president, I'll have a nice schwitz in the White House gym. Then I'll go to the big banks. I'll sit them down. And yada, 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 they'll be broken up.
Which is, frankly, that quality of answer is not dissimilar to the actual answers Bernie Sanders give or, frankly, to the actual answers Hillary Clinton gives about her speeches before the big banks.
Because she's yada, yada, yada without the specifics. I want the transcripts of her yada, yada.
As soon as everybody else releases the transcripts of their $500,000 speeches before Goldman Sachs, she'll release hers. But on a serious note, the Panama Papers. Now, this story hasn't gotten the kind of coverage here that it's gotten, for example, in England, where David Cameron's been a bit beset by the issue of having an offshore account from which he derived financial benefit that was set up by his father.
His daddy set it up.
Right.
Protect David.
But even more importantly, the likes of Vlad Putin and other rogue actors the world over laundering money through Panama, because that's essentially what's happening. We talked to Tom Handler, who's an attorney in Chicago who does this for a living with legitimate business people and other people.
Or politicians,
have means.
Chicago politicians.
No, he doesn't.
They go to the Cayman Islands.
Yeah,
right?
not his clientele. But and he basically said, look, this is largely, there's criminal activity rife throughout what was going on at Mossack Fonseca, this Panamanian law firm. And there was a reason. He made the point, this is interesting, as somebody not in that space, you might not otherwise know it, that this is not a stable financial marketplace. That if you were going to set up offshore accounts for the purpose of reducing exposure, for privacy.
Taxes.
Yeah. But you wouldn't do it in Panama. You do it in other jurisdictions. Panama's way down the list, so there's a reason they were doing it there. But here's who among the they, because we haven't talked about the couple hundred Americans on the list. Well, they're starting to pour through who those Americans are. And to no one's surprise, a lot of Hillary Clinton supporters on the list. The Falkoffs, Gabrielle Falkoff, who served as Clinton's finance director during her first campaign for the Senate in New York, she's on the list. Frank Giustra, you'll remember him. He's the Canadian mining magnate who was profiled in Clinton Cash, that Peter Schweitzer book that came out last year that I guarantee you will be revisited in the general election. He's on the list. A company that was set up by Mark Rich on the list. Remember Mark Rich?
He of the hot wife that Bill liked?
Right, who got the nice pardon that Bill proffered. And
millions of dollars that Bill and Hillary got.
Exactly.
Right?
Well, that's precisely what happened. So just the continuing closing in on the Clintons, and every time you think, oh, well, she's put the server thing behind her, or she will, or she's put the bank speeches behind her, or she will in a general election, something else is unearthed because you just keep peeling back the onion.
Who's left to back her but people that have money in the game? I mean, really, who's left to back her except... Okay, some women of a certain age, who love Hillary and wear those scarves around their necks all the time, and you can see them at the Oak Park Library.
Yeah,
correct. No offense,
those aren't women.
I have friends among them, but outside of that, and the money guys like the interest groups you're talking about, who's there really to back her?
Right,
I don't get it.
It's a collection of tax eaters and those addled by gender and race identity politics, and then the financiers who really expect to cash in, who are really driving the show. And the connection to the Panama Papers just re-illustrates that.
So a lot of people are taking money out of this country with the help of Panama.
Connect with Dan and Amy using the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
Now that spring has arrived, it's likely you're looking forward to the warmer weather. But if you're a business owner, facilities manager, or maintenance engineer, you risk the same potential problem every year. A complete system failure. In fact, up to half of all commercial air conditioning units fail upon startup each season due to the lack of regular maintenance and repair. Let the professionals at Air Comfort make a comprehensive assessment of your mechanical system before there's a problem. A poorly operating air conditioning system results in uneven temperatures and humidity problems, leading to unhealthy mold and mildew growth. Don't compromise your business's overall air quality. Schedule today with Air Comfort. Call 708-345-1900 or visit aircomfort.com. Even if you're under contract with another provider, let Air Comfort provide your second opinion. After all, there's a reason why hundreds of businesses have trusted Air Comfort with their mechanical maintenance for more than 80 years. That's Air Comfort, a tradition of excellence since 1935.
The school year is coming to an end, so even though your kids aren't thinking about next year, you should be, especially if you want to send your child to a private school. Now, you might think that there's no way you could ever afford it. Well, we want to tell you and remind you about halfpriceschools.com. At halfpriceschools.com, you will find dozens of local private schools that are offering vouchers for a full year of tuition at, guess what? You guessed it, half the price. There's no catch. It's simple. Go to halfpriceschools.com, locate a school near you, and be prepared to send your child off to school this fall. There is no catch. So start thinking about back to school today. This might make private schools a real option for your family for the first time, but don't wait every year, folks. These vouchers sell out. So do it before class resumes this fall. Visit halfpriceschools.com today. That's halfpriceschools.com.
AM 560, The Answer.
Dan and John Cass, Tribune columnist, in for Amy. And John, remember how Hillary was the senator of New York during 9/11? She says that often.
She reminds us that she bravely, stood off the Al-Qaeda.
It's funny because now she can't figure out if she wants to side with 9/11 families against the Saudis. We'll have that at 5:37. But first, let's check the headlines with Mike Scott.
Dan and John, good morning. Good morning, everyone. We have 56 degrees. Winds are calm this morning. And the death toll from a powerful earthquake in Ecuador is soaring past 250. Officials say 272 people are dead, more than 2,500 injured following Saturday's magnitude 7.8 quake. Sky News' Greg Millam reports from Ecuador.
This is the most powerful earthquake to hit Ecuador in decades. Images have emerged of homes and shopping centers badly damaged. Dams and oil pipelines were shut down as a precaution. Power and water supplies have been affected. Patients were evacuated from a hospital. A tsunami warning was issued for a stretch of the coastline. People warned to seek higher ground. And the shaking even felt 100 miles away in the capital, Quito, the country's vice president addressing the nation.
The entire public force is in a state of maximum alert to protect the lives of citizens. Strategic infrastructure is also being monitored.
It is expected that as rescue crews look closer to the quake's epicenter, the casualty figures will rise.
Local rescuers in southern Japan continue combing through debris for 10 people reported missing following 2 powerful earthquakes there that have claimed the lives of 41. Meantime, U.S. military personnel have joined relief efforts, and U.S. Army planes and helicopters are landing in Japan. The political future of Brazil's President Dilma Rousseff is even in greater doubt today after the Chamber of Deputies voted to open impeachment proceedings. It now will be up to Brazil's Senate to put her on trial. Donald Trump keeping up his attacks on what he says is a corrupt primary process.
You're basically saying, Delegate, listen, we're going to send you to Mar-a-Lago on a Boeing 757. You're going to use the spa. You're going to this, you're going to that. We want your vote. That's a corrupt system. While campaigning in Staten Island, he described the process of wooing delegates as gift-giving. Supreme Court hears a big immigration case today. Justices will consider the case challenging the president's executive actions that shield millions of illegal immigrants from deportation. The zoo in Palm Beach, Florida, reopens this morning, 3 days after a tiger killed a zookeeper there. It's a big day in Boston as the city celebrates Patriots Day with the 120th running of the Boston Marathon. There will be 20 Pulitzer Prizes handed out today, honoring excellence in journalism. Here in Chicago, Illinois Comptroller Leslie Munger says she and other office holders in the state will have to wait for their paychecks, just like others in the state during the budget impasse. Chicago Teachers Union says the countdown towards a possible strike has begun after it rejected out of hand the recommendations of a neutral arbitrator that it accept a contract offer from the Chicago Public Schools. Chicago sports. In the NHL, playoff action, Blues over the Blackhawks 3-2. On the diamond, Tampa Bay beat the White Sox. Colorado shut out the Cubs. The news, a service of Subway. Get the new Subway 6-inch carved turkey and bacon for just $4. Offer ends April 27th. Extras, additional charge, excludes deluxe subs, plus applicable tax. Prices and participation may vary, not to be combined with any other offer. 5:36 and a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Mike Gallagher is tired of the double standard with race.
Thanks for the endorsement, Bill.
Sorry, Hillary. I was running on CP time.
Cautious politician time.
That was flat out racist. Hillary Clinton ought to be called out as a racist, and yet there's nothing but silence when liberal Democrats do something that is that offensive.
The Mike Gallagher Show, weekdays at 9, right before Dennis Prager at 11 on AM 560. The Answer.
Here Maps. Hit the open road with free offline turn-by-turn guidance that works anywhere. Get it for your phone at here.com/offline.
If medications haven't helped you treat your depression, why haven't you tried TMS therapy offered by Theramind? Now there is a way to successfully treat your depression without the need for meds and their harmful side effects. TMS therapy is covered by most insurance, including Blue Cross Blue Shield of Illinois and Medicare. Don't continue to suffer needlessly. Call Theramind. Don't wait. Call Theramind now. 847-562-5868. The single greatest advancement to date in treating depression is TMS. It's an FDA-cleared, non-drug, safe, and effective treatment. TMS has already changed the lives of over 50,000 patients. Why not you? Visit tmsmind.com. Depression can be beaten, and without drugs. Call Theramind today. 847-562-5868. Or get more info at tmsmind.com. That's Theramind at 847-562-5868 or online at tmsmind.com.
In our Guardian Security Services Traffic Center, let's get the latest on the roads with Jim Talamonte.
Traffic is heavy from the Kennedy Expressway to Mannheim with the Monday morning rush there. Main lanes of the Kennedy are still good. The Eden's clear, so is the Eisenhower. Inbound Stevenson, heavy past Ashland with a crash blocking the right lane. Inbound Ryan, a little congested approaching downtown. Bishop Ford, it's a 1-minute delay from Cottage Grove to the Ryan. Eastbound Adams Tollway from Lee to Mannheim, 2 left lanes are closed with construction till 6 this morning. There's also some work on the southbound Tri-State at the Cal-Sag Bridge. That's blocking 2 right lanes. Indiana Toll Road has the usual resurfacing delays in Porter and LaPorte counties. Traffic is a service of Chicago Blue Cart Recycling. Did you know that recycling 1 plastic bottle to light a 60-watt bulb for 6 hours? Recycling is one of the easiest ways residents can help protect the environment. In support of Earth Day, visit chicagorecycles.org to learn more about how you can recycle in Chicago. Traffic answers when you need them most. Jim Talamonte, an AM 560, The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Next, your official Chicagoland weather forecast from the aircomfort.com Weather Center. Partly sunny and very warm. For April, this is strange. A high near 80 today. 51 overnight. A little more normal tomorrow with a high of 63. 51 at O'Hare. 55 along Chicago's lakefront. Next news is at 6, and Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. On AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Illinois Rising, hosted by Dan Proft and the Illinois Policy Institute. Sunday afternoons at 3 on AM 560, The Answer.
Good morning, Dan. And in for Amy this morning is the lovely and talented John Cash, Chicago Tribune columnist.
Hi, Dan.
And we're going to get to a piece you wrote over the weekend on Chicago police at the top of the next hour. But you know how Hillary Clinton is wanted to remind us that she was the senator from New York on 9/11? And she represented the big banks and the people. And
she helped put it back together.
Right. Not just New York, but the entire country.
Big hugs.
Yeah, there's no question about that. It's funny because for all of her self-described heroism on behalf of 9/11 families, fast forward 15 years, and she's having a hard time figuring out if she supports the victims, the families of the victims of 9/11, or the Saudi government. You know, again...
well, tell us why that is.
For all the talk from the Cackle Caucus about the right and about starting wars in the Middle East and all this, remind us who, again, is in bed, if you will, metaphorically speaking only, with some of these foreign governments, both in terms of cash that's being funneled to her foundation, which is sort of a potentially a criminal enterprise if the FBI says it is, and that's a pending matter. But more just the kind of underscores how craven politically Clinton Inc. truly is.
Well, the 9/11 report.
And this was brought back a week ago Sunday. 60 Minutes does a piece about the 28 pages in the 9/11 report that the 9/11 Commission said should have been released. It was classified now, but should have been released long ago. It was unanimous among 9/11 Commission members, Democrats and Republicans.
So who redacted it?
Well, it hasn't been released because the CIA doesn't want it released, and the FBI doesn't want it released. And so this has now kind of been brought back to the fore because of the 60 Minutes piece, as well as legislation sponsored by Chuck Schumer, the senior senator from New York, who wants 9/11 families to be able to sue the Saudi government, civilly sue the Saudi government for damages associated with the Saudi government's role in 9/11. There was a federal lawsuit that was dismissed last September by a federal judge because there was not enough evidence presented to link the Saudi government to 9/11. And if you hear from some of the people that are kind of characterizing what's in those 28 pages, the suggestion is not that there's a smoking gun, but certainly there is more clear connection between representatives of the Saudi government, maybe not going all the way up to the ruling family, but representatives of the Saudi government and the terrorists, 15 of the 19 terrorists.
Well, the whole thing about the Saudi government is to protect itself from the Wahhabi interests, from radical interests, and they sometimes export that anger and anxiety to other countries where it can be better advantaged, right?
Right.
There's issues about Saudis and ISIS, about Saudis and Osama, right?
Correct. Now, so the candidates are being asked about this. Ted Cruz was asked the question by Hannity in a Hannity town hall over the weekend. Here's Cruz's response. He's seen the 28 pages that have not been released. Should they be?
Last question, exit question. Do you know what's in the 28 redacted pages of the 9/11 report?
I have reviewed those pages, and I believe they should be made public.
Pretty simple answer. Well, Hillary Clinton was on with Clinton Foundation donor Zero over the weekend. That's George Stephanopoulos.
That's why I don't watch his show.
Nor should you. But this is kind of a rather interesting exchange, considering the relationship between those two. Listen to George Stephanopoulos pressing Hillary on the issue of Chuck Schumer's bill that would provide the pathway for 9/11 victims' families to sue the Saudi government.
Your senior senator here in New York, Chuck Schumer, has sponsored a bill backed by the 9/11 families that would give them the right to sue state sponsors of terror in federal court. Now, it's opposed by the Obama administration. They say it's going to expose the U.S. and its officials to retaliation. So who's right here, Senator Schumer or President Obama?
I don't really know about that, George. I'll have to look into it. Obviously, we've got to make anyone who participates in or supports terrorism pay a price, and we also have to be aware of any consequences that might affect Americans, either military or civilian or our nation. So I'm not
you don't know about
able
this
to take
issue.
a
It's been
position
around
on
for
something.
several years.
Well, I know I know there's been an issue about it for quite some time. I don't know about the specific legislation that you're referring to, but obviously I'll look into it.
Okay, so but you're not prepared to say now whether you support it or oppose it?
I can't. I haven't studied it.
Finally,
unlike some people, I actually do. I do try to learn what's at the core of any question before I offer an opinion, because it's not enough to say what's wrong. I think you got a responsibility to say how you're going to fix it.
Oh,
what a liar!
She's the responsible person.
Here's the deal on this. Okay, we've done this enough. Asked questions of people enough professionally. All she's thinking about is, am I covered? Is there something out there that I say A, I'm going to look like an idiot for because I'm taking money or something? That's what she cares about, not the United States, not the concern of the people who want to sue Saudi Arabia. All she wants is, can I cover Hillary? That's what it's about.
And you can be certain. You can be certain she's read the 28 pages, and the idea that the senator from New York during 9/11. She wears that as a badge of honor.
Right.
And, and legitimately so, in theory. But she's not paying attention. I don't know the legislation Chuck Schumer sponsored. Wouldn't you have overriding concern for the victims' families from 9/11 and their ability for some exacting some justice from the Saudis if there was an opportunity to do so? Wouldn't this be front and center for you as the senator from New York on 9/11?
You can see the little rat running around in the cage in her mind, and all she's worried about is, am I exposed? That's what she's worried about.
And it's funny because, to your point, here's what happened after that interview. Nick Merrill, who's her traveling press secretary, tweeted this. Hillary Clinton supports the efforts by Senator Schumer and his colleagues in the Senate to secure the ability of 9/11 families and other victims of terrorist attacks to hold accountable those responsible. As president, she would work with Congress to this end. So apparently, right, after that, just within a couple of hours after that interview, she was able to do the necessary research, John, so she could take a strong position in support of 9/11 families. But it's exactly right. It's exactly what you said. She was caught in the moment. She didn't want to step on herself, which she does routinely, and so she punted.
And her boy, George Stephanopoulos, is not going to ask her a tough question, and she's still freaked out.
Lest you think Comrade Bernie is any better, he was on with Dana Bash on CNN, where he was asked the same question, and he gave a very similar response.
Saudi Arabia has told the Obama administration that it will sell off hundreds of billions of dollars of American assets if Congress allows the Saudi government to be held responsible in American courts for any role in the 9/11 attacks. How do you intend to vote as a senator?
Well, I need more information before I can give you that decision. But clearly I have, as you have heard me say, a whole lot of concerns about the role that Saudi Arabia has been playing for many, many years.
He has concerns, too. He has concerns about Saudi Arabia. And here's the other thing, the underlying thing. We should make note of this, as Stephanopoulos did. President Obama opposes the Schumer bill because we're going to get pushed around by the Saudis threatening to sell off U.S. assets, just like we get pushed around by every other country in the world, because, of course, the Saudi Arabia is exceptional in their own minds, just like we're exceptional.
I give you one image in your mind. That of the President of the United States bowing so low to the King of Saudi Arabia that he shows him the top of his head, like some groveling peasant. And no further questions, Your Honor.
He was looking for Riyadh.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
And now it's time for the weather. So partly cloudy today and very warm, high of 80. Mostly cloudy tonight, a low of 51. And tomorrow, cooler with partial sunshine and an afternoon of shower in spots. High of 63, low tomorrow night, 50. And the only thing I wanted to say while I was trying to get through that was, how's Jim Telemonte?
I'm great, John. Good morning. Great to have you here. Good morning, Dan. And things are fairly routine on the Chicago expressways right now. The Edens is still clear. Kennedy outbound, a little sluggish Foster to Sayre, about a 3-minute delay. And then it's slow as usual at this hour on a Monday on westbound 190. Stop and go from the Kennedy to Manheim. The Eisenhower still good, just a little sluggish inbound past Manheim. Stevenson, it's slow from Harlem to Kedzie and western to past Ashland. It's a crash there in the right lane. 40 minutes, 3:55 to Lakeshore Drive. Outbound fine at 34. Ryan is 19 minutes, 95th to downtown. Bishop Ford, about a 2-minute delay approaching the Ryan. The Illinois tollways are delay-free. The Indiana toll road has resurfacing delays in Porter and LaPorte counties in both directions. That's long-term work. You can expect those delays all summer. Jim Talamonte in the Guardian Security Services Traffic Center.
The school year is coming to an end, so even though your kids aren't thinking about the next school year, you should be, especially if you want to send your child to a private school. You might think that there's no way you could ever afford to do that. Well, we want to tell you about halfpriceschools.com. At halfpriceschools.com, you'll find dozens of local private schools that are offering vouchers for a full year of tuition at half the price. There's no catch. It's very simple. Find a school near you, purchase the tuition voucher, and prepare to send your child off to school this fall. Halfpriceschools.com has schools located all across Chicagoland, including schools in Roselle, Chicago, Arlington Heights, Villa Park, Crystal Lake, Algonquin, Downers Grove. So start thinking about back to school today. This might make private school a real option for your family for the first time. But don't wait. Many of these vouchers will sell out before class resumes this fall. Visit halfpriceschools.com today. That's halfpriceschools.com.
America has a serious narcotics problem. 90% of the world's narcotics are taken by Americans. They have a place, but when you're dealing with chronic pain, pain that doesn't go away or which frequently returns, there is a better way. You're masking the pain. We help you find and deal with the source of the chronic pain to get real relief. This is Ken Candido of Chicago Anesthesia Pain Specialists. We're serious players in pain. Our team are national leaders and we're educators in the treatment of pain. We will work with you to diminish or eliminate your pain and help you get your life back. Contact us, we will help you. You don't have to live with chronic pain. We treat all pain. We don't mask it with painkillers and narcotics that are not good for you and which can be addictive. I have a simple message for you. If you or someone you love or someone you know has chronic pain, contact us. Treating chronic pain issues is what we do. We can make it better. Get an appointment and let's talk. mypainchicago.com, mypainchicago.com. All the info is available at mypainchicago.com. Let's make you pain-free.
I'm Dan Proft with an Upstream Idea, brought to you by the Illinois Policy Institute. 27 Illinois state employees, on average, receive total compensation 27% higher than their private sector counterparts. State employees made nearly $4,000 more in wages and $13,000 in benefits than private sector employees. More than half of state workers will retire before the age of 60 with a guaranteed state pension. The state is in a financial death spiral with ground impact imminent. So keep this in mind as Governor Bruce Rauner breaks off contract talks with AFSCME, the state's largest public sector union. AFSCME has been unwilling to give on its demands for annual step increases of 3.8%, in addition to annual general wage increases. The lowball estimate of the cost of what AFSCME demands is $1.6 billion. That's $1.6 billion more from Illinois families who already pay the highest property taxes in the nation. This is Governor Rauner's moment of truth. He ran for office saying he is not a politician. He said he is a businessman who will make the difficult decisions to turn around the state he loves. We're about to find out if that's true. For more upstream ideas, visit upstream-ideas.com. I'm Dan Proft.
AM 560, The Answer.
Dan, and in for Amy is John Cass from the Tribune. And John, death spiral has been called. Death spiral has been called as it relates to Obamacare. Something has to give, said Larry Levitt, an expert on the health law at the Kaiser Family Foundation. Either insurers will drop out or insurers will raise premiums. Report from McKinsey found that 41 of our 50 states in 2014 lost money in the Obamacare marketplace. It's hard to have too much sympathy for the big insurance companies.
They have to do this fast, Dan, because if the people start to realize the high insurance that they're paying now, the premiums going up, were to pay for Obama's politics, it might be bad for the Democrats. So they have to do something quickly.
Mr. Levitt, this health policy expert from the Kaiser Family Foundation, said the industry is clearly setting the stage for bigger premium increases in 2017. The industry where the big boys wrote this rent-seeking, big government meets big insurance law. So, again, hard to have sympathy for them. But are we moving to single payer? Obamacare was backdoor to single payer. Now we're going to move in the front door. And I'll tell you what, some states are already looking at it. Colorado is looking at Colorado Care, a 10% tax on payroll to provide single-payer health coverage in the state of Colorado. They've got an amendment on the ballot for voters in November, Amendment 69, where they'd become the first state to implement universal health care. So, as P.J. O'Rourke famously said, if you think that health care is expensive now, wait until it's free, and we're finding out just how expensive that is.
It's news, opinion, insight. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Hey, protecting your family and Second Amendment rights is important. You need the proper equipment and training from DS Arms. As an actual manufacturer of AR-15 and FNFAL type rifles, they also stock all major brands of firearms, including handguns and every accessory imaginable for self-defense, target shooting, and hunting. Ladies, get your concealed carry license plus basic and advanced training in a family-friendly environment with girlfriends, loved ones, even mom. Everything's provided, including a firearm for only $225. For custom rifles made in America or concealed carry firearms training classes, make DS Arms your team. It's great being an American and supporting your Second Amendment rights and American manufacturing jobs. With nearly 3 decades of experience, DS Arms has you covered. DS Arms, much more than a gun store. It's easy to reach in Lake Barrington, just off of Route 14 and Pepper Road. Call 847-277-7260 or visit dsarms.com.
Looking to secure financing on a new home or refinance your existing home? Then you need to do what Amy did when she purchased her home, and that's called David Hochberg, Vice President of Lending at Pearl Mortgage. Stacy's heard hundreds of David's ads, but wanted to contact a realtor before purchasing a home in Plainfield. Bad move. Not getting pre-qualified by David before talking with the realtor is like sunbathing at the equator without suntan lotion. David answered Stacy's questions, pre-qualified her to purchase a home, and introduced her to Ron Wexler, his radio show's realtor in Plainfield, to purchase a home. Purchasing a home can be overwhelming, but it won't be if you call David first. David can pre-qualify you for free and introduce you to his team of preferred realtors who will help you locate the perfect home. If you're purchasing a home, the only call you need to make is to David at 312-751-1333 or visit am560david.com. David and his team of real estate experts will help you take care of all of your real estate needs. David's helped Amy and thousands of AM 560 listeners, but he can't help you if you don't call 312-751-1333. Core Mortgage, an equal housing lender, Illinois Residential Mortgagee, licensee 4358, and MLS 19186.
Sean Hannity warns of a third-party challenge.
The Washington Post today is claiming that a group of, quote, conservative leaders got together this morning to plot a third-party challenge if Donald Trump gets the nomination. I would argue, and I'm saying this respectfully, this is a death wish. This is a plan to help elect Hillary. This is a circular firing squad.
The Sean Hannity Show. Afternoons at 2, right before Joe Walsh at 5 on AM 560. The Answer.
Hey, Chicagoland, I've got a message for all the engineers and contractors. There's a new technology out there that's fundamentally changing the way we do business. It's called 3D scanning. A 3D scanner creates an incredibly accurate three-dimensional model of literally any space, along with a perfect high-def picture. What it gives us is better communication, more accurate designs, more shop fabrication, and less field fitting. Many of you have been exposed to it and think it's exclusively in the domain of the big engineering houses. It's not. Some think you have to have a big project for it to be useful. You don't. 3D scans are being used in new applications every day. Health, safety, HAZCOM, technician training, and historical preservation, to name just a few. DraftTech is making this technology affordable and available. If you'd like a demonstration, contact DraftTech at draftingresults.com. That's DraftTech at draftingresults.com. Cutting edge technology, old school service.
When you're a kid, monsters live under your bed. When you're a grown-up, monsters come in the mail. You know, bills. But by refinancing your mortgage with Quicken Loans, you could save hundreds of dollars each month. Money you can use to shrink those monstrous bills down to a size that's not nearly as scary. To learn how, call 800-QUICKEN today or visit us online at QuickenLoans.com. Here's one more thing that can help put your mind at ease. For 6 years in a row, J.D. Power has ranked Quicken Loans highest in the nation in customer satisfaction. And for the second year in a row, they've also ranked us highest in mortgage servicing. Call us at 800-QUICKEN and buy in. Again, that number is 800-QUICKEN. Quicken Loans. Home buy, refi, power. Visit jdpower.com for award information. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org, number 3030.
Coming up at 6:06, I asked John Cash if he thinks it makes sense for the Chicago police to go on an apology tour. Would that make the streets safer? We'll peruse his column from Sunday after we check the headlines with Mike Scott.
Dan and John, here are the stories we're watching right now. The CTU has rejected an independent fact finder's report. Bond denied for a man charged in a deadly West Side shooting. Blues beat the Blackhawks in Game 3 of their playoff set. Partly sunny day ahead. WIND Chicago News Time, 6 o'clock.
Fox News Radio. I'm Dave Anthony. They keep searching in Ecuador. Cruz using heavy equipment and dogs looking for survivors still trapped after Saturday's powerful earthquake that killed at least 272 people.
Daylight confirmed the worst. Buildings flattened, bridges collapsed, widespread devastation. A 7.8 magnitude tremor. It struck the coast, but was felt across the country.
That's Sky News' Ashish Joshi. They're also still searching for 10 people still missing in Japan after back-to-back quakes last week that killed 42 and injured nearly 1,100. Many more were left homeless. New Yorkers vote tomorrow.
I'm done with the hand-wringing and all the negative talk.
Hillary Clinton trying to win her adopted home state. Bernie Sanders says if turnout is high, he can pull off an upset. Donald Trump holds a huge lead among New York Republicans. It's Marathon Monday in Boston. Memories of the 2013 terror attack still fresh. Fox's Bill Marcus live in Boston.
Dave, there's security that the public is going to see, but a lot they won't. Authorities saying resources for prevention and response will be increased. Friday was the third anniversary of the bombing, which took 3 lives and wounded more than 260, many of those losing limbs. Some of those who lost limbs running again today for the first time. And it's a stunning day for it. Temperatures are expected to be up in the 70s for the 31,000 runners. Dave?
Now, Bill, it may be mid-April, but a lot of people in Colorado have been shoveling a lot of snow.
So this will be my workout for the weekend.
Some areas got 4 feet. It's still snowing in parts of New Mexico. And this is a day that procrastinators have been waiting for. It's tax day. And millions of taxpayers across America have until a midnight deadline to file their returns with the IRS. This is Fox News Radio. Fair and balanced.
Mostly clear skies in Chicago. Sunrise over our fantastic lakefront at 6:02 on AM 560. The Answer. Good morning, I'm Mike Scott. A father of two was fatally shot in the Lawndale neighborhood on Chicago's west side early Sunday morning. Frederick Blunt was gunned down next to his vehicle at 13th and South Central Park Avenue. Blunt was struck in the head and was already dead, according to Chicago police when they arrived on the scene. Over the weekend, as many as 10 have been wounded just since Sunday morning in Chicago shootings. A 76-year-old Washington state man released from prison after a prosecutor concluded he was wrongly convicted in the 1957 killing of a schoolgirl, says he intends to sue the state. Jack McCullough speaking with the Associated Press 2 days after a judge vacated his 2012 conviction in the slaying of 7-year-old Maria Ridolph of Sycamore, said the investigation into him was fatally flawed. Illinois Comptroller Leslie Munger says she and other office holders will have to wait for their paychecks, just like others in the state budget impasse. Munger saying at a news conference Sunday it's unfair that members of the General Assembly get their paychecks while others, like small businesses, companies that do business with the state, must wait. Chicago Teachers Union says the countdown toward a possible strike has begun. CTU President Karen Lewis says her group has rejected the recommendation of a neutral arbitrator that it accept a contract offer. Lewis saying they've turned down that recommendation on a 4-year deal.
After consideration, the fact-finding report is being rejected because it doesn't meet our criteria for a fair contract for our members.
Union says the earliest a strike could begin is May 16. Union could also strike in September as school gets set to resume. Chicago sports. Blues over the Blackhawks 3-2. St. Louis leading that Stanley Cup playoff set first-round series 2-1. Tampa Bay beat the White Sox. Colorado over the Cubs. The news, a service of Napa Auto Parts this month at participating Napa Auto stores. Buy a Napa 5-gallon bucket for $3.99 and get 20% off any items you can fit in it. Plus, they'll donate $1 to the Intrepid Fallen Heroes Fund for every bucket sold. That's Napa know-how. Minimum 3 items, some exclusions apply. 6:04, time to check the climate of your business with aircomfort.com. 80 years of quality mechanical solutions for your business. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
The battle for the Republican nomination is racing towards the convention this summer in Cleveland.
Nobody is going to have enough delegates. We are going to go to a convention. It's going to be open.
Can Trump be stopped?
The only campaign that has beaten Donald Trump and the only campaign that can beat Donald Trump is this campaign.
Will there be a third-party run?
Donald Trump is a phony, a fraud.
What happens next?
We should make it pretty easily based on what I'm seeing.
Happens here.
So we won't have to worry about fighting at a convention.
This is AM 560. The Answer.
I'm Nick Soboleski, a Select Quote agent with a true story that could save you hundreds of dollars a year. A woman named Linda just called. Her husband, Ray, has a $300,000 group life insurance policy, but is changing jobs and can't take it with him. Well, I impartially shopped the highly rated term life insurance companies we represent and found Ray, who is 41 and takes medication to control his cholesterol, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for under $26 a month. That's almost twice the coverage for less than half of what he had paid. If SelectQuote hasn't shopped for your life insurance, you're probably paying too much.
For your free quote, call 1-800-467-5125. That's 1-800-467-5125. 1-800-467-5125. Or go to SelectQuote.com. We shop. You save. Get full details on the example policy at SelectQuote.com/commercials. Your price can vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors not available in all states.
6:06. Let's get an update on your morning roads in our Guardian Security Services Traffic Center. Here is Jim Talamonte.
Thanks, Mike. The inbound Kennedy has stop-and-go traffic from 190 to Cumberland, where there's a crash. IDOT is responding. Outbound, it's slow Foster to Sayre and Cumberland to 190. It is 25 minutes downtown to O'Hare, and it's also slow on westbound 190 from the Kennedy to Manheim. Edens is still clear. Inbound Eisenhower, 32 minutes. Thorndale to downtown. Outbound fine at 29. Stevenson stop and go Harlem to Kedzie and Cermak to State, 41 minutes. 355 to Lakeshore Drive. Outbound all good. Ryan, 21 minutes. 95th to downtown. Bishop Ford just a little slow approaching the Rhine. Illinois tollways are good. The Indiana toll road has delays in Porter and LaPorte counties. Traffic service of timeshareexitteam.com. If you could get out of your timeshare safely and legitimately, would you? Timeshare Exit Team has a 100% guarantee they'll get you out or give you a full refund. TimeshareExitTeam.com. Get out now at TimeshareExitTeam.com. Traffic answers when you need them most. I'm Jim Talamonte on AM 560. The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Your official Chicagoland weather forecast from the aircomfort.com Weather Center. 80 years of quality mechanical solutions for your business. Here's our meteorologist, Kevin Snyder.
Partial sunshine today with a high 81, then becoming mostly cloudy tonight, low 49. Tomorrow, partly sunny with an afternoon shower in spots with a high 62 and a shower in spots at night, low 51. Couple of showers still around mainly late in the day Wednesday, high 62. I'm Kevin Snyder on AM 560, The Answer.
Currently 51 at O'Hare, 55 along Chicago's lakefront. Next news, 6:30. And Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Artistic Dentistry. Online at artisticdentistry-pc.com. Excellence in the art and science of dentistry.
Good morning. Welcome to your Monday morning briefing. Here's what you need to know to start your day.
China's upset because of the way Donald Trump is talking about trade with China. They're ripping us off, folks. It's time. I'm so happy they're upset.
Do you look at it yourself and think that's an obscene amount of money?
Yes, I think it's an obscene amount of money. And they're right to protest. They're absolutely right. It is an obscene amount of money. The Sanders campaign, when they talk about it, is absolutely right. It's ridiculous that we should have this kind of money in politics. I agree completely.
Once I'm elected president, I'll have a nice schwitz in the White House, Jim. Then I'll go to the big banks. I'll sit them down. And yada, 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 they'll be broken up.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Good morning, Dan. And in for Amy this morning is Chicago Tribune columnist John Cass. And, John, we talked on this show last week quite a bit about Tiny Dancer's Star Chamber report on the Chicago police, the upshot of which 12,000 Chicago police officers are co-conspirators in an institution that is systemically racist and has no regard for the sanctity of life of minorities in the city of Chicago. That's what they said.
Well, 52% of the officers are white. So the 48% that are black, Latino, and Asian are not racist?
No,
or is it that the women are racist or not? I don't know. I don't get it.
We figured this out last week. The 52% of the whites are the racists, and the 48% of the non-whites are covering up for the racists as part of the code of silence.
The history of Chicago is about racism, and to say that there is no, has been no, or is no racism in the Chicago Police Department or any other institution, I don't know if that's quite accurate. I think there is.
Of course.
But that's not the issue. The issue is how do you, what I wrote about Sunday, how do you talk about racism and not talk in the police department and not talk about like outfit bosses putting chiefs of detectives in or the corruption, the systemic political corruption in Chicago, right? These cops are just an extension of the politics. Or the news story that came out in the Tribune this week and was reported elsewhere that the top cop himself and others are being investigated for some shenanigans on a promotions test.
Well, so here's the right. I mean, I think the point you made, that's an important point, is you have a city that is beset by corruption. You think there are going to be some institutions that are completely insulated from it? No institution will be completely insulated from it, which is why we have all of these civic institutions in the city, the schools, the police, the city hall generally melting down. And so the question is the recommendations of the Star Chamber that Tiny Dancer assembled. One of them, Chicago police should go on an apology tour to rebuild relationships by apologizing for all the past bad acts by bad actors. You think that will increase peace on the streets? Take your calls, 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro. Answer line, 64636DA, turnkey.pro. Text line, there's no question, John, as you point out, that in any institution with 12,000 people, no matter how highly trained they are, no matter how selective is the process to put them in uniform, you're going to have bad actors. And maybe we have tolerated more bad actors than we should have over the years. Maybe there has been covering up for one another within the department. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. There is a question of 400 police-involved shootings and only 2 instances of disciplinary action. I get all that. But to me, it seems like there was a missed opportunity here, and you go to it in your column on Sunday, to have a constructive discussion about that problem, but in a way that moves forward structural changes that could enhance the police department, make it better, and make it more trustworthy. I talked to one police lieutenant friend of mine. He said, you know what's going to happen as a result of this report, as if morale wasn't low enough.
Right.
And the metaphorically, the handcuffs that have been put on us in so many ways, which is why investigative stops are down 90% year over year, and murders and shootings are up 60 and 80%. He said, we're going to have a long, bloody summer because you've essentially told gangbangers that the police have been defanged, that they have been sat down, and all that they need to focus on right now is going to CAPS meetings and apologizing for who they are.
You have thousands of black Chicagoans, middle-class African-Americans leaving the city because they don't want to get killed. My colleague and former legman, Will Lee, who's now a columnist in his own right, apparently, and a good one, wrote a great column a few weeks ago about this. Black Chicago terrified of being killed in the gang wars. So this report that the mayor had commissioned is really not about anything other than allowing the mayor to begin the road of redemption for sitting on the Laquan McDonald video he could get elected.
Isn't this a way for him to kind of offload responsibility?
Yeah.
Misdirection?
Misdirection. And also, there is an issue, right? You have black activists screaming about racism. Okay, so he gives them that, and then comes up with solutions. But the problem is, in the middle of all this, the Inspector General is now investigating top African-American police officials for allegedly some impropriety on the lieutenant's exam tests that their wives or girlfriends did extremely well on.
Well, and
if you get into the morale of that, there are coppers listening to this right now who studied their ass off on those tests, who know they're not going to, have the key answer that gets them into the 100th percentile, and they're bitter. So you have more bitter people. That's why the corruption doesn't stop in this town.
Well, because it's just one form of clout for another. You maybe is political clout or tribal clout, as you kind of point out in your piece, of a different sort 30 years ago, 20 years ago. And now, I hear from Chicago police friends of mine as well, now there's, like it's university admissions, there's racial promotion, there's gender promotion.
So that's merit.
That's the new form of clout. Or it's a new form of clout.
Right. So ultimately, as a political exercise, it's not about reform. What the left and others want to do is just take over the system to benefit themselves.
I also want to go back.
That's what it is.
I want to go back to something you said, too, about middle income. I don't like using class. Middle income black families leaving the city, or those staying in the city that have the same disposition I or you would have, which is, I want the neighborhood I live in to be safe. I don't care who's shooting. I want whoever's shooting to be behind bars.
I want to sit out on my porch, smoke a cigar with my grandkid or my son, and not think of them or me getting shot while I'm doing it.
Well, we had a guest on who's a associate professor from Clooney, the University of New York, several months back, named Michael Javon Fortner. He wrote a book on this topic. It's very interesting. He goes back and traces the more stringent drug laws that were enacted in New York City and New York State in the 70s. And, it was treated as Nelson Rockefeller, which rich white liberal Republican, and he's cracking down on, minorities, right? Kind of the same racial politics you see play in this city 40 years later still. And it turns out, if you actually go back and look, and Fortner did, it was upwardly mobile black families that were calling upon politicians to come in and impose stiffer sentences to take the predators out of their communities.
As some did call on President Clinton for that same type of thing.
And now everybody has to apologize
including Hillary,
for distinguishing between law-abiding people, regardless of race, and non-law-abiding people, violent people.
Memo to all my colleagues in the press and to all the politicians. There are such things, people, as super predators, okay? They're out there right now. They shoot into cars and kill and shoot little 1-year-old babies like the one that was shot over the weekend. Get real.
Let's go to Ron on the south side here on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Absolutely, John. I enjoyed your column like I always do, and certainly those predators. I've gotten criticized on different radio programs. I call them the way it is. Those are animals. But also, you know what? You have to call out those same predators on the police department.
Yeah.
I have no use for either one of them, the game bangers or the bad police. But here's my thing.
Hey, George, remember who wrote the first big column on the Laquan McDonald shooting? Me.
Yeah, and also all the columns you wrote about John Burge, too, on the other side.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah, right. No, John reads you all the time. I commend you. But then, for you and this has been mentioned a couple of times, for some of the police officers who said, well, we're being handcuffed. So that to suggest that you cannot do your job according to the law. And again, I want the police to get rid of this crap that's on the street, but then I don't want them just to abuse someone like myself, a law bastard. So, but here's the thing, but for people who use that as a cop-out, see, they hate to be just like, say, for instance, if this was systemic in the medical field, and some doctors were, just, I don't know, intentionally killing people. And people say, well, because they're cracking down, can't do a job. That's an excuse. If they can't do the job according to the law, still with respect to people, find another occupation. I just think that's a cop-out.
Well,
but
Ron, I think there's a couple of things there. One is it's not even according to the law. It's kind of the shifting sands of culture. And we had Dean Angelo Sr. on the show last week, and he basically said, they're looking at this and they don't want to be the next YouTube video. They don't want Black Lives Matters outside of their home. They don't want to jeopardize their careers.
If they're arresting people, probably. I mean, what's the problem?
The problem.
That's the problem right there.
Ron, we've seen arrests that have been hotly debated, but that turned out to be good arrests or even good shootings. But it didn't mean that officer in question wasn't the subject to kind of national controversy and national focus. And a lot of people just don't want to do that. At the end of the day, no matter how highly trained they are, they're still human beings as well. So you can understand being a bit gun shy depending on where the culture is going. And when you have politicians like wait, let me finish. I know that. I know that, Ron. Of course not.
I don't want to be a victim of a police who overreacts based on some stereotype.
Hey, Ron, what happens when Tiny Dancer and his Star Chamber issue a report that essentially tells the police that you are on one side of a skirmish line and the political elites are on the other side?
Dan, I have no use for that piece of crap. But then here's another problem that I think is even the biggest farce. For him to select a person, if you're going to say that this department has racism, and then you name a same police that comes from that same department. But here's the problem. I can tell you can point right to it. We should have got rid of him from the beginning. So you guys have a good day. John, I always enjoy you, Mr. Cam.
Thanks for the call, Ron. Appreciate it. Coming back, I want to pick up on Cass's column to talk a little bit more about tribes, to give a little bit more feel for what exactly you're talking about when you talk about the historical tribes in the city of Chicago.
Listen to podcasts of Dan and Amy from the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
Well, here's the weather. Today, partly sunny and very warm, high of 80. Tonight, mostly cloudy, low of 51. Tomorrow, cooler with partial sunshine. An afternoon shower in spots, high of 63. And I wish Jim Talamonte could hit the Kankakee River with me, and we'd go for some smallmouth bass.
That sounds great, John. Good morning. Good morning, Dan.
Boat.
All right. On the Adams Tollway eastbound, it's really heavy now. There's a crash on the inbound Kennedy at Cumberland on the right shoulder, and the delay started on the Des Plaines Oasis, really jammed up through that stretch. And farther to the northwest, eastbound I-90 is slow from Barrington Road to 53. And once you get on the Kennedy and past Cumberland, it's fairly clear. 25 minutes O'Hare to downtown, outbound 30 with a delay starting at Lawrence. Inbound Edens, just a little heavy approaching the junction. Inbound Eisenhower, slow Wolf to Harlem. 38 minutes, Thorndale to downtown, outbound 30. Stevenson, 46 minutes, 355 to Lakeshore Drive. And Ryan is 21 minutes, 95th to downtown. I'm Jim Talamonte in the Guardian Security Services Traffic Center.
You're going to need a bigger boat.
The big DuPage County Home Remodeling Expo, a free home show that's open to the public, is coming to the Odeum Expo Center this weekend only. If you're looking to remodel your kitchen, bathroom, basement, or maybe get a new roof, flooring, windows, or siding, then this is the event for you. At this two-day expo, you'll meet local and national contractors displaying their products and services. Get new ideas, set up estimates, and talk directly with contractors, many of which are offering huge discounts. Maybe you need a new furnace, state-of-the-art generator, or just a handyman. You'll find everything you need under one roof. Increase the value of your home and bring your friends and family. Special announcement! Attend this free home show and get a free gift at the door. You heard it right, that's a free gift at the door. Remember, the DuPage County Home Remodeling Expo this weekend only at the Odeum Expo Center in Villa Park. Get more information at homeshowevent.com. That's homeshowevent.com.
Air Filter Engineers, how can we help you?
Hi, I'm Mike, Chief Engineer at the big building on South Wabash. I wanted to let you know that ever since I started using your company to provide my air filters, everything's been great. We have less people calling in sick because of the improved air quality, energy bills have gone down, and your customer service and deliveries have been excellent. You guys really make my job easier.
We try hard, Mike. Is there anything we can help you with today?
No, it's just that my mother told me not to say anything unless I have something good to say. This is the first time I've been able to speak today.
Ah, it's 4 o'clock.
I know. Thanks for listening.
New local businesses get their first order delivered free when they mention AM 560. Minimum order supply, 630-384-0400. That's 630-384-0400. Or find them online at filterexperts.com. That's filterexperts.com. Air Filter Engineers, providing Chicagoland with cleaner air.
Hey, the security officers at your business are an extension of your business. Because they are, you got to have the best. Often the first person your customer meets is your security officer, so they need to be professional, friendly, and courteous. Hey, if you're having issues with your security provider, don't tolerate it. Man, call Guardian Security Services. They're friends of mine. They're at the top of their game, setting the bar for customer service for the past 41 years in Chicago. Easy to reach if you have questions. They pride themselves on a client retention ratio greater than 95% and the best training and vetting practices in the industry. Hey, if you're unhappy with your on-site security officer or doorman, hey, call Guardian Security Services. Get a free consultation and tell them Joe Walsh sent you. Right now, call 708-385-3300. That's 708-385-3300 or online at guardiansecurityinc.com.
AM 560, The Answer.
You want more than just the headlines? Find out what's going on and what it means with me, Dennis Prager, this morning at 11, right here on AM 560, The Answer.
Good morning. What up? It's Dan, and in for Amy this morning is Chicago Tribune columnist John Cass. Text from Ann B. Davis's bowling ball. Where are the corporate boycotts of Chicago over racism? Good question. John, your column over the weekend talked about tribes, and I wanted to allow you to provide a little bit more of an explication of what you mean by the tribes that beset Chicago.
They don't beset Chicago. Chicago's Chicago's a tribal system city politically.
And how's that going?
It's the way it is. You had the Irish who were kicked around like dogs here in the early part of the century. last century. You have Lithuanians, Germans, Poles, all the different groups, Eastern European Jews, Italians, all the groups that used to huddle together from one viaduct to the other and mark their territory and had their politics and had their ethnic newspapers and so forth, and African Americans stuck in what we call the Black Belt on the South Side. All of that contributes to a kind of police department where you had different cliques. And the department still has political cliques in it. And all that has to be considered in the context of some blanket charge of racism. Yes, has been racism, and there is. But it's a little bit more complicated than that. And all the time I hear the left tell me that, things are a little bit more complicated. They're not black and white. Right. Well, now I guess they are just black and white, but they're not.
So you're suggesting that the police department suffers from if you think it's suffering, and I do, suffers from a certain balkanization, but it's a microcosm of the city writ large.
Anyone who thinks that they're going to separate racism from politics in Chicago is a simpleton. And I've read and seen many simpletons at work over the weekend, you not being one of them.
Yeah.
And, they are...
Including the progressive left simpletons on Tiny Dancer Star Chamber. Lori Lightfoot and the gang.
Lori, I think, look, it's a political document.
It's an op-ed.
It's about Rahm washing himself of the sin of sitting on Laquan McDonald video so he could get elected. That's what it's about. And if some cops are getting thrown under the bus as a result, fine. But not fine, but that's what's going to happen. And in the same breath, a 1-year-old baby was shot over the weekend. Another child was shot. More children are getting shot. They're hitting the ground. They're rolling on the ground with bullets in them. Okay, so what do you want these coppers to do?
Well, and by the way, if you think you live in one of the wards like where I live, and I keep saying this, and I'm going to keep saying this because I think we're going to have a long, bloody summer as predicted by some of my Chicago police friends, you think the entire city can burn down around 5 to 10 wards and you're not going to be impacted, you're lying to yourself. Jay in Rockford, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer. Hey, Jay.
Hello. Hey, how you doing, Dan?
Good.
Okay, so are there racist cops in Chicago? Absolutely. But to put out a blanket statement like this is just Chicago politics at its worst. And so let's say as a criteria, in order to be racist, you have to hate minorities. And by that criteria, if the cops are racist and the gangbangers are not, I'd like to be surrounded by the racists so they can protect me from the non-racists.
Thanks for the call, Jay.
What about the black coppers like the one that stuck his gun in the mouth of a gangbanger who was threatening other officers? What about that? I mean, come on, man. Be real.
Mike on the north side. Hey, Mike.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. First off, you were right. This is just a snowstorm. The city just wants to change the subject. Hey, we're not wrong. We're not stealing. Now they talk about an apology tour. When are the Daley brothers going on an apology tour? Vice Vatican. 20 years ago, Daley changed the hiring practices for the police department. We got all these young, educated people grew up outside of the city and moved in because the old cops were bad, and look what happened. You hired all these liberals on the police department, and everything's going to, you know what, the handbasket. So it's liberals hating liberals. Don't blame the Chicago cops. How many times do they drive through a neighborhood and they get pelted with stuff and nobody says a word? How many times on Michigan Avenue do they get attacked and the political power structure won't prosecute anybody? They're punching bags. You got the police department you wanted. You emasculated them. You gave all the power to the criminals. Enjoy the summer.
Thanks for the call, Mike.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Hey, sorry I'm late. I'm the chair for the company picnic committee, and I'm overwhelmed with finding the perfect catering partner.
Don't be freaked out by that. Tasty Catering has done our company picnic every year for the last 5 years. I actually went to Tasty Catering's kitchen first to taste the food. They served juicy burgers right from the grill, fresh salads, awesome sides, and fun foods for the kids. Last year, we even had delicious brisket and an entire pig roast.
Can they handle all the details? There's not much time to plan.
Planning was even easier. Tasty Catering handled every detail, from serving pieces to inflatables for the kids, the DJ, and of course, the bar area.
That's exactly what we're looking for.
Just go to tastycatering.com. The pricing was right, and our CFO signed off on the contract immediately.
The best company picnics start at tastycatering.com. View picnic menus and locations, entertainment options, and more. That's tastycatering.com.
If medications haven't helped you treat your depression, why haven't you tried TMS therapy offered by Theramine? Now there's a way to successfully treat your depression without the need for meds and their harmful side effects. TMS therapy is covered by most insurance, including Blue Cross Blue Shield of Illinois and Medicare. Don't continue to suffer needlessly. Call Theramine 847-562-5868. TMS has already changed the lives of over 50,000 patients. Why not you? Visit them at tmsmind.com. TMS is covered by most health insurance, as I said, including Blue Cross Blue Shield and Medicare. Depression can be beaten and without drugs. Call Theramine now, 847-562-5868. Get more info at tmsmind.com. Call now, Theramine, 847-562-5868. Coming up, Charlie Black. He helped organize delegates for Reagan in 76. He's trying to do the same for Kasich in 2016. We'll have him at 6:36 after we check the headlines with Mike Scott.
Dan and John, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Sunny and 56 degrees right now. American military personnel have joined earthquake relief efforts in Japan. They'll help Japanese authorities who are struggling to feed and care for tens of thousands left homeless after powerful quakes struck last week, leaving more than 40 dead. Meantime, rescue crews in Ecuador are working frantically to reach people they believe are still alive in collapsed buildings after a magnitude 7.8 earthquake hit the western coast of that country Saturday. 270 are confirmed dead. This morning, flash floods are sweeping across Houston. Nearly a foot of rain fell in just 6 hours, flooding off the northwest section of that city entirely. Supreme Court takes up a huge immigration case today. Justice is hearing oral arguments on the president's executive actions, shielding several million illegal immigrants from deportation. New York presidential primary Tuesday, Republican frontrunner Donald Trump running hard, still complaining about the primary process, but the chairman of the RNC says he will not be bullied by Trump.
There's no room for threatening the delegates or the convention or anybody that would be going to our national convention.
Meantime, in New York, Bernie Sanders is calling out rival Hillary Clinton for her big money campaign fundraising.
You cannot have a super PAC raise many millions of dollars from Wall Street or special interest and then tell the American people with a straight face that you're going to stand up to the big money interest.
Sanders trailing Clinton in the Empire State CBS Battleground Tracker poll, a 10-point lead for Clinton right now. Tax filing deadline is on us, and if you won't be able to meet tonight's midnight deadline, you can get an automatic 6-month extension. You'll need to
when I say rigged system, I'm talking about closed system that keeps the voters from participating. Because what this election has shown is that when voters participate, Donald Trump wins.
Lawndale neighborhood on Chicago's west side Sunday morning. Frederick Blunt was gunned down next to his vehicle at West 13th Street and South Central Park Avenue. Illinois Comptroller Leslie Munger says she and other office holders are going to have to wait for their paychecks, just like others in the state during the budget impasse. Munger saying Sunday it's not fair that she and members of the General Assembly get a paycheck, while small businesses that do a business with the state must wait. Illinois State Police say a suspect in an Indiana homicide investigation has died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. State Police say a trooper was following a car driven by the suspect when it came to a stop in Bloomington. Statement says the lone occupant then refused to step outside, and a shot was fired inside that vehicle. McLean County Coroner Kathy Davis identified that man as 35-year-old Salvador Corral of Hammond, Indiana. And the University of Buffalo is having to do a lot of explaining this morning. 5,100 prospective students were sent erroneous acceptance letters. School officials telling the Buffalo News this morning the email actually was sent to students after someone in the admissions or financial office compiled an erroneous email list from the applicant database. Chicago sports, NHL, Blues over the Blackhawks in that first-round Stanley Cup playoff set 3-2. On the diamond, Tampa Bay over the White Sox. Colorado beat the Cubs. The news a service of LifeLock. Grabbing coffee or breakfast? If you swipe your card, you leave a trail of digital information that thieves can use to steal your identity. Ever hear of LifeLock? They're a U.S.-based team of specialists helping preserve identity theft problems. Go to lifelock.com now. Use promo code RISK to save 10%. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Dennis Prager restates his position on Donald Trump.
I am as opposed to Donald Trump winning the nomination as I can be because I am a conservative. I don't know any conservative positions that he holds. Having said that, I would still vote for him because between this insufferable Republican and the insufferable Democrat, I will take the insufferable Republican.
The Dennis Prager Show, weekdays at 11, right before Sean Hannity at 2 on AM 560. The Answer.
Attend the Chicago Military Collectibles Show Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at the Midwest Conference Center in North Lake, located at 294 and Lake Street. For details, visit militarypromotions.info.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing, independently owned business bank. Signature Bank listens to your story, learns about your business, and sticks with their customers. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
I'm Kurt Penn, founder and CEO of Good Foods. In 2007, I was shopping in a natural foods grocery store and had a vision for a company that would produce fresh, all-natural foods with a social conscience. Signature Bank helped turn that vision into what now is Good Foods. Signature Bank President Mick O'Rourke listened to our story and learned about our business. Mick has been with us every step of the way. Signature Bank takes care of the details so we can focus on producing good foods. Signature Bank is deeply invested in our success. Good Foods is very proud to bank with Signature Bank.
Signature Bank is looking for their next success story. Learn more about turning your business vision into reality. Visit signature-bank.com. Signature Bank, helping local businesses succeed. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
6:38 in our Guardian Security Services Traffic Center. Here is Jim Talamonte.
Thanks, Mike. On the Edens inbound, it's 21 minutes from Lake Cook to Montrose, up on 19. The Kennedy and the eastbound Adamsville were jammed after a crash at Cumberland. Those delays start around Bussey. Once you get onto the Kennedy, it's about 30 minutes O'Hare to downtown. How about 45? Eisenhower now 55 minutes. Thorndale to the Loop. Crash at Swains Avenue in the left lane. Outbound 35 minutes to Thorndale. Stevenson, an hour, 3:55 to Lakeshore Drive, 45 minutes from the Tri-State. Outbound, there's a 2-minute delay, Cudsey to Cicero. Ryan, 22 minutes, 95th to downtown. North on Tri-State slow. The Reagan Tollway to Grand Avenue. The Adams Tollway is slow. Barrington Road to 53, and then Bussey on to the Kennedy. Traffic service of TimeshareExitTeam.com. You could get out of your timeshare safely and legitimately, would you? Timeshare's Exit Team has a 100% guarantee they'll get you out or give you a full refund. TimeshareExitTeam.com. Get out now. TimeshareExitTeam.com. Traffic answers when you need them most. Jim Talamonte, AM 560, The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Your official Chicagoland weather forecast. From the aircomfort.com Weather Center, partly sunny, very warm today, a high near 80, a low of 51 overnight. Currently 51 at O'Hare. Next news coming up at 7. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by DS Arms Pro Shop and Factory Showroom in Lake Barrington. Much more than a gun store. Visit dsarms.com for more information.
Your money. Find out how to keep more of it and live debt-free. Tonight on The Dave Ramsey Show, starting at 7 on AM 560. The Answer.
Hey, it's Dan, and with me this morning in for Amy is John Cass, Chicago Tribune columnist. And John, Paul Manafort was on with Clinton Foundation donor Zero yesterday talking about the rigged system that Donald Trump has been complaining about for the past, 10 months really, but the past 10 days in particular, Colorado and then Wyoming over the weekend where Ted Cruz got all 14 delegates. Again, it was a delegate convention. It wasn't a caucus or a primary. Manafort, of course, retained by Donald Trump to head up the delegate gathering process for the Trump campaign. And he explained what he meant to Stephanopoulos when he says the system is rigged.
When I say rigged system, I'm talking about closed system that keeps the voters from participating. Because what this election has shown is that when voters participate, Donald Trump wins. When the bosses participate, Donald Trump's interests are not there because he's the outsider.
He may have a point on the kind of former part of the statement about voters not participating other than elected delegates. I don't know about Donald Trump necessarily being the popular choice. Again, he has received 37% of the vote so far, the popular vote so far, and 48% of the delegates. That's the system and the rules of the game, as everybody knew going in. Well, we've got a bit of a rematch here because in 1976, Paul Manafort was the delegate gatherer for Ford, contested convention, and one Charlie Black was the delegate gatherer for one Ronald Reagan. And now Paul Manafort is with Trump, and Charlie Black, who's the chairman of the Prime Policy Group and a longtime advisor to a number of presidents, including President Reagan, including President George Herbert Walker Bush, including President George W. Bush. Charlie Black is the delegate gathering consultant for the John Kasich campaign, and we're pleased to have him join us now. Charlie, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
My pleasure, Dan. Good to be with you and John.
So what's your response to Paul Manafort and the Trump campaign more generally about this quote-unquote rigged system as we continue to have this hypothetical conversation about what a contested convention would look like?
Well, if they want to reform the system, they're going to have to wait till next year after this convention and this election and go state by state to try to get the states to reform the way they select delegates. Both our great political parties in this country for almost 200 years have nominated candidates for president at conventions, with a majority of delegates selecting the nominee, but both have left it up to the states as to the exact method by which they select delegates. So, nobody's going to change the rules in the middle of the game, and I'm sorry that it's sinking in on Donald that he's not going to get enough delegates to have the nomination on the first ballot, and that means he'll probably lose.
Maybe you could set something straight because I'm getting confused with all the experts talking. In order for your guy Kasich to get the nomination, does he have to win 8 states?
No.
I thought the rules were you had to win 8 states in order to be considered for the nomination, no?
There was a rule that was inserted at the last convention. For decades and decades, the requirement to get nomination speeches and a floor demonstration and all has been plurality of 5 states. Last convention, 2012, in order to keep Ron Paul from having a nomination speech and seconding speeches and a floor demonstration, the Romney forces changed that rule. They upped the requirement. But it was a scheduling issue for them. It wasn't that Romney hadn't already locked up the nomination. Here's the point. Every convention sets its own rules, and the majority of delegates make the decisions. Most important point, if Kasich, for some reason, were not to get formally nominated and seconded, people could still vote for him.
Well, so how does John Kasich, though, just in terms of the substantive argument, forget the procedural one for a second, the substantive argument, if John Kasich goes to the convention only winning his home state of Ohio, even if Trump falls short, how do you make the case that you're better positioned and a more legitimate nominee than, say, Ted Cruz as the alternative?
Well, first of all, the legitimate nominee is who gets a majority of the delegates. Okay. And nobody's close to that yet. We got a lot more states to go. And we'll see when we get to the convention who's in position to do that. But John Kasich is a successful 2-term governor of Ohio. He's cut taxes, cut spending, reformed the government there, overcome a deficit. Before that, he spent 18 years in Washington. He's chairman of the Budget Committee for several of those years. He's the last balanced budget this country had, which ran for 4 years from 98 to 01, was written by John Kasich. So his qualifications and experience to be president, nobody really even questions. Second thing, when delegates go to political party conventions to nominate somebody for president, they view their job as pick somebody who can do the job of president, but pick someone who can win. Now, we have hundreds of polls out there since last summer when Trump and Kasich and Cruz were all in the race. Kasich consistently beats Hillary Clinton. In fact, if you average out all those polls over the last 8-10 months, he beats her by an average of 10 points. Donald Trump loses to Hillary Clinton by an average of 10 or 11. Cruz loses by an average of like 4 or 5. So the delegates are going to focus not only on who's got the qualifications, but who can win.
And as somebody who's a veteran of this process, going back to, as I mentioned at the outset, Reagan in '76, talking to Charlie Black, chairman of the Prime Policy Group, who's the delegate consultant for John Kasich's campaign. What about the interaction between the delegates and the campaigns? This is now being, kind of a question that's being raised. You can't bribe people, of course, but I saw James Baker in an interview talking about Reagan in '76 saying, can we, to a particular delegate, can we take you to lunch? Can we go out for lunch and talk about the race? And, oh, by the way, you don't mind if John Wayne joins us. It's kind of one of those things. So what are the lines in terms of the lobbying of delegates that campaigns can do?
Well, in my experience, not only in the contested convention of 1976, but also in several other conventions since then, I've managed the platform committee for presidents or Republican nominees. So you have to deal with the delegates and try to get their support for the candidate's position. My experience is most of these people are very conscientious, and they come there with their own views and their own principles, but with the good of the party at heart. And, Baker and I have kidded about this for years. He was inviting people to the White House for state dinners and to meet Queen Elizabeth and to fly around Air Force One, which was hard for even John Wayne and Jimmy Stewart had a hard time competing with that.
Right.
But that said, I bet there weren't a half a dozen delegates at that 1976 convention who were influenced, made up their minds based on being wined and dined by us or by the White House. So I think it'll be the same thing this time. Yes, the FEC, Federal Election Commission, has rules about what they can do and what they can't, but I don't think anybody's going to buy these delegates. And by the way, most of them are going to be what I call regular Republicans. They're people who've been in the party for a long time, not newcomers who just attached themselves to one of these candidates. Some of them will be elected officials, state legislators, sheriffs, the local county party chairman. They're going to be serious people who've been involved in the Republican Party for a while who want to win, and that's their obligation.
How does
to pick somebody.
How does the Republican Party change after this election, no matter who's in? Do those old-timers holding on to the establishment party continue to hold on to it? Or
well, I don't know.
Does the system and the party change to reflect the more populistic view?
Well, I don't know, John. I mean, look, first of all, if we elect a president, that president's going to pretty much define the Republican brand and the approach going forward, which I think we can elect a president. I think clearly right now Kasich's the best position to do that. But, the delegates I just described at that convention are driving this process. It's not a smoke-filled room. I'm sitting in Washington. I have no influence of those people unless I happen to know them from college or something. It's not a matter of party.
Dan and I expect to sit in a smoke-filled room with you in Cleveland sometime.
That's right. I mean, just to have a cigar, not to decide anything.
Well, I'd be happy to do that. We'll need some recreation by the time we all get there and work hard. But no, it's the party is reflecting some anger at Washington, some anger at both parties in the country. People at the grassroots have not had an increase in their take-home pay since Obama's been president. Some of them are worried about terrorism and the threats that we don't seem to be managing very well. So, yeah, there's a lot of disquiet out in the country, and we need to reflect that. But you don't reflect it by the kind of demagogic tactics that Donald Trump uses. And by the way, he's 2/3 of the general electorate, and 50% of Republicans do not favor Trump, have an unfavorable view of him. So we shouldn't overreact as a party that you got a great reality TV show star in there getting 37% of the vote.
Before we let you go, Paul Manafort accused the Cruz campaign of Gestapo tactics with respect to Colorado and other states where they're trying to peel off delegates. Do you see anything that the Cruz campaign is doing that is wrong or afoul of the rules?
I haven't seen it. What they are doing, they started over a year ago organizing in the states down to the local level. You have to invest time, people, and money to do that. But they've done a good job of organizing at the grassroots level, and so they're winning some delegates. Now, Trump knows that after the first ballot, a lot of the people that were bound to vote for him on that ballot are no longer bound, and he's going to lose them. So they themselves have said, if we don't get 1237 on the first ballot, Trump's going to lose. So that's why they're so afraid about the Cruz, the results of Cruz's organizing. But look, you can't change the rules in the middle of the game, and they've known these rules since last October.
All right, he's Charlie Black, chairman of the Prime Policy Group, advisor to many presidents, and now the consultant to the Kasich campaign on delegate gathering. Charlie, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Dan and John. Appreciate it.
And he joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper. Hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Man, it looks like time to go fishing on the Kankakee River today. Partly sunny, very warm, high 80, mostly cloudy, low 51 tonight, and tomorrow cooler with partial sunshine, an afternoon of showers and spots, a high of 63. Low tomorrow night, good sleeping weather, Jim Talamonte, in the 50s.
That sounds great, John. Good morning. Unfortunately, to get to that great fishing spot this morning, might have to sit in some Chumbalone traffic. It's slow going on the inbound Kennedy. There's an earlier crash at Cumberland, and it's really jammed now, actually from the Adams Tollway around Bussey, through the River Road Toll, and pretty much now all the way to Montrose, and then it's slow again division into the Loop area. 35 minutes O'Hare to downtown. Outbound, it's 45. Eden's 30 minutes, Lake Hook to Montrose, outbound 20, the Eisenhower. 55 minutes, Thorndale to downtown, outbound 35. The Stevenson is full hour from 355 to Lakeshore Drive, outbound 40 minutes. The Ryan, 22 minutes, 95th to downtown. Northbound Tri-State delays from the Stevenson to the Hinsdale Oasis and from the Reagan Tollway through the Grand Avenue Curve. Adams Tollway heavy, Barrington to 53, and then again Bussey to the Kennedy. Reagan Tollway stop and go from 22nd to the Eisenhower. The Veterans Memorial's a little heavy now from 63rd to the Reagan Tollway. Jim Talamonte and the Guardian Security Services Traffic Center.
I'm Greg Clugston in for Lou Dobbs. Congress continues to wrestle with a bailout for Puerto Rico, and the NBA sees dollar signs in sponsor logos on uniforms. Those stories next.
This report is brought to you by Kaplan University School of Business and Information Technology. Tax filing season is also tax fraud season. The Government Accountability Office reported the IRS paid out $5.8 billion in fraudulent tax refunds in 2013, with that number expected to triple this year. For the 60% of Americans who rely on tax professionals, the fight against fraud starts with a practitioner ready to delve in deep. This is why Kaplan University School of Business and IT offers advanced accounting degrees practitioners need to support their role as a trusted advisor. According to Kaplan accounting professor Monica Hubler, a tax preparer who's too quiet during the process should raise a red flag with clients.
Being a CPA is not just about crunching numbers. It's about protecting your clients by asking the hard questions. Professionals committed to being this first line of defense against tax fraud recognize the value of further developing their knowledge and skill base to know the right questions to ask and when.
For more, visit programs at kaplanuniversity.edu.
Wall Street will be looking at the numbers in the housing market index set to be released this morning. It provides a gauge of not only demand for housing, but also economic momentum that demand can reflect. Congress will take another look this week at legislation to help Puerto Rico with its $70 billion debt. Speaker Paul Ryan is pushing the bill, but opposition from House conservatives is strong. Italian gunmaker Beretta celebrated over the weekend at its new manufacturing and research facility, opened in suburban Nashville. The NBA hopes to generate at least $100 million annually by selling sponsorship logos on players' uniforms. Commissioner Adam Silver says the revenue potential from logo placement was too vast to resist. Please tune in for Lou Dobbs tonight at 7 and 11 Eastern on the Fox Business Network. This is the Lou Dobbs Financial Report.
If you aren't one of our listeners who has already purchased a MyPillow and getting a better night's sleep, then here we go again to try and finally get you on board. Mother's Day and Father's Day are right around the corner, and the 2-for-1 offer is still available with the promo code Amy. I won't list all the benefits again. You've heard them from Amy many times. Suffice it to say that the benefits are many, especially how much better you'll sleep and how much better you'll feel. That's why MyPillow is the official pillow of the National Sleep Foundation. It's the perfect gift for mom, dad, or you. And it's always good to know you're getting the best deal with the 2-for-1 offer. Visit MyPillow.com or call 800-489-4700. 800-489-0201. Use the promo code Amy for the 2-for-1 offer. Do it now, 800-489-0201 or online at mypillow.com. Promo code Amy, that number one more time, 800-489-0201. Do it now.
Congratulations to all who took the Balance of Nature New Year's Challenge. Success stories are pouring in. So many people have been helped through this incentive that I have asked Balance of Nature to continue this challenge for as long as possible.
I'll tell you what, this stuff is great. I haven't gotten sick. Everybody around me is coming down with that laryngitis, and it seems like it's all over the country. It's like a respiratory tract infection, and people lose their voice, and then it goes away, and then it comes back like 2 weeks later, and it's worse. I teach in a school. Half the teachers here are sick. They're miserable. And I haven't gotten sick, and I swear it's this stuff. It's this fruits and veggies I'm taking.
Good health is just a phone call away. What are you waiting for? Call now and take the health challenge to get a free month's supply of Balance of Nature. Call 1-800-2468-751. That's 1-800-2468-751. Or go online to balanceofnature.com. Use promo code CHICAGO.
On AM 560 The Answer, we talk about the important issues that affect your world. Things like the economy, education, and foreign policy. There's always so much going on in the news that we don't always have the time to drill down and talk about the big ideas behind the big issues. That's where Upstream Ideas comes in. Upstream Ideas, online at upstream-ideas.com, in partnership with the Illinois Policy Institute, provides the kind of information that informs the policy discussions happening here on AM 560. At Upstream Ideas, you'll broaden the debate, move beyond partisan assumptions, and challenge accepted orthodoxies. In other words, Upstream Ideas goes against the current and thinks upstream. Go online now to upstream-ideas.com. That's upstream-ideas.com. You'll be armed with new information and fresh perspectives to spur you on to make the state of Illinois and the United States of America a bit more free, a bit more just, and a bit more civilized. Upstream-ideas.com.
Did you know that prostate cancer is the second largest cancer killer of men? Approximately 30,000 men will die this year from prostate cancer. That's 82 men every day. I'm Dr. Richard Harris from UroPartners. If you need urological care, our integrated practice of more than 60 experienced urological specialists, pathologists, and radiation oncologists are here to help. UroPartners provides state-of-the-art urological care at multiple locations throughout the Chicagoland area. We pride ourselves on communicating with and educating our patients about their urological conditions and treatment options. UroPartners offers state-of-the-art care in robotic surgery, radiation therapy, impotency, infertility, kidney stone disease, incontinence, and vasectomy services. Come to the experts. Visit UroPartners.com for a UroPartners physician near you. That's UroPartners.com. Or call 630-UROLOGY to set up an appointment today.
Coming up at 7:07, are middle-income families on this tax day doing better than the politicians would have you believe? We'll discuss after we check the headlines with Mike Scott.
Dan and John, here are the stories we're following right now, including American military personnel joining earthquake relief efforts in Japan, as more than 270 are dead in Ecuador after an earthquake there. Fox with the latest on that developing story. The CTU rejects an independent fact finder's report and may go on strike. Blues beat the Blackhawks in Game 3. WIND Chicago News Time, 7.
Fox News Radio, I'm Dave Anthony. Could this be a 4-4 case at the shorthanded Supreme Court? President Obama wants the justices to lift lower court orders that put on hold controversial executive orders shielding millions of illegal immigrants. Fox's Rachel Sutherland live in Washington.
Dave, Texas Attorney General Kim Paxton claims that President Obama's executive actions on immigration will cost his and more than 24 other states money and valuable resources. And he argues,
we think presidents have a duty to follow Article 2, Section 3 of the Constitution.
White House Press Secretary Josh Earnest says the feds have limited immigration enforcement resources.
We should target those resources at the most dangerous people.
The 8 justices are hearing oral arguments on the case today. The bench is down 1 justice because of the death of Justice Scalia. Dave.
Rachel, Donald Trump keeps railing against the Republican nomination process after Ted Cruz took all 14 Wyoming delegates.
It's a rigged system. It's a crooked system.
Cruz tweeted that Trump's lost 5 straight contests, #no whining. But Trump has a huge lead in the polls before tomorrow's New York primary. Bernie Sanders hopes to pull off a Democrat upset.
We listen to ordinary people, not just wealthy campaign contributors.
Hillary Clinton has had a double-digit lead in New York. They keep searching through rubble looking for earthquake survivors in Japan and Ecuador.
I wish I could be out there and help.
That Florida man has family in Ecuador, where at least 272 people were killed by a quake that collapsed building and damaged roads. Relief supplies are pouring into Japan, where 42 people died in back-to-back quakes last week. More than 30,000 runners getting ready for the Boston Marathon. So are police, 3 years after the deadly bombings at the finish line.
The BPD working with several agencies, including the FBI, keeping an ear to the ground for online chatter regarding possible terror threats locally and overseas, and arranging for more than 5,000 officers along the marathon route, both in uniform and plain clothes.
That's Jackie Heinrich with Fox 25 TV. This is Fox News Radio. Fair and balanced.
Mostly sunny and 50 degrees. 7:02 is our time on AM 560. The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. American military personnel joining earthquake relief efforts in Japan today after 40 were left dead there. 270 are confirmed dead in Ecuador. It's a developing story we'll continue to follow with a local impact here on Chicago, and we continue to follow that story here in the Morning Answer newsroom. Meantime, father of 2 was fatally shot in the Lawndale neighborhood on Chicago's west side early this morning. Frederick Blunt was gunned down near his vehicle near West 13th and Central Park Avenue. Residents say they woke up to the sound of several gunshots being fired. 2 others are in critical condition as 10 have been shot since early Sunday morning in Chicago shootings. Chicago West Side man has been charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder in last June's shooting death of 2 men. 31-year-old Jose Ortiz was arrested on the Southwest Side last Friday. Illinois Comptroller Leslie Munger says she and other office holders will have to wait for their paychecks, just like others in the state during the budget impasse. Munger saying on Sunday, the failure to pass a budget is a crisis that is now stretching into its 10th month, and state office holders cannot get their paychecks while small companies that do business with the state must wait. CTU says the countdown toward a possible strike has begun after teachers rejected recommendations of a neutral arbitrator that said it should accept a contract offer from the nation's 3rd largest school system. CTU President Karen Lewis explains why they turned down that recommendation.
After consideration, the fact-finding report is being rejected because it doesn't meet our criteria for a fair contract for our members.
The earliest a strike could actually take place is May 16. Illinois State Police say a suspect in an Indiana homicide investigation has died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. It happened Saturday night in McLean County, where the coroner identified the man as 35-year-old Salvador Corral of Hammond, Indiana. Chicago sports, NHL playoffs, round 1. Blues hold an advantage in their series with the Blackhawks now after a 3-2 win. Tampa Bay beat the White Sox. Colorado over the Cubs. The news, a service of Napa Auto Parts. Now until the end of the month, give your engine the protection it needs and get Castrol Edge full synthetic oil for just $5.79 a quart at Napa. That's Napa know-how, general states pricing. Sales prices do not include applicable state, local taxes, or recycling fees. 7:04 and a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Sean Hannity warns of a third-party challenge.
The Washington Post today is claiming that a group of, quote, conservative leaders got together this morning to plot a third-party challenge if Donald Trump gets the nomination. I would argue, and I'm saying this respectfully, this is a death wish. This is a plan to help elect Hillary. This is a circular firing squad.
The Sean Hannity Show. Afternoons at 2, right before Joe Walsh at 5 on AM 560. The Answer.
I'm Nick Soboleski, a Select Quote agent with a true story that could save you hundreds of dollars a year. A woman named Linda just called. Her husband, Ray, has a $300,000 group life insurance policy, but is changing jobs and can't take it with him. Well, I impartially shopped the highly rated term life insurance companies we represent and found Ray, who is 41 and takes medication to control his cholesterol, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for under $26 a month. That's almost twice the coverage for less than half of what he had paid. If SelectQuote hasn't shopped for your life insurance, you're probably paying too much.
For your free quote, call 1-800-467-5125. That's 1-800-467-5125. 1-800-467-5125. Or go to SelectQuote.com. We shop, you save. Get full details on the example policy at SelectQuote.com/commercials. Your price can vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors not available in all states.
There are two kinds of pain. Pain that goes away and the worst kind, chronic pain. If you suffer from chronic pain, life is not complete and it can be miserable. Unfortunately, most people use narcotics that mask the pain. You need to find the source of the chronic pain and get relief.
This is Dr. Ken Candido of Chicago Anesthesia Pain Specialists. We're serious players in the management of pain, and our team are national leaders, as well as being educators in the treatment of pain. We will work with you to diminish or eliminate your pain and help you get your life back. You know, there's a nationwide narcotics epidemic, and people are too quick to mask over chronic pain instead of looking for the cause and treating or eliminating the pain. Contact us. We will help you.
Go to mypainchicago.com. Call and make an appointment with some of the best pain people in the nation, located here in Chicago. mypainchicago.com. You or someone you know suffers in the suffering of chronic pain. mypainchicago.com. Let's make you pain-free.
7:07, time to check the climate of your business with aircomfort.com. 80 years of quality mechanical solutions for your business. And in our Guardian Security Services Traffic Center, here is Jim Talamonte.
Thanks, Mike. It's heavy on the inbound Edens from Niles Center to the junction. 30 minutes Lake Cook to Montrose, outbound 21. The Kennedy, 36 minutes O'Hare to downtown, outbound 45. The Eisenhower is 55 minutes, Thorndale to the post office. 42 from Manheim, outbound 35 to Thorndale. Stevenson, an hour, 355 to Lakeshore Drive. 45 minutes from the Tri-State, outbound 40 minutes to 355. Ryan, 25 minutes, 95th to downtown. I-57 to the Bishop Ford, remarkably light. Lakeshore Drive still looks pretty good. The northbound Tri-State has delays. Plainfield Road to the Hinsdale Oasis. And the Reagan Tollway through the Grand Avenue Curve. Adams Tollway till Barrington Road to 53. Then Toohey to the River Road Toll. Veterans Memorial still 75th to the Reagan Tollway. Traffic answers when you need them most. I'm Jim Talamonte. AM 560, The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Your official Chicagoland weather forecast from the aircomfort.com Weather Center. Let's get the latest now with meteorologist Kevin Snyder.
Today, partly sunny, high 81. Tonight, mostly cloudy, low 49. Cooler tomorrow with partial sunshine and an afternoon shower in spots with a high of 62. I'm Kevin Snyder on AM 560, The Answer.
50 at O'Hare, 51 along the lakefront. Next news, 7:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by 1 Hour Heating and Air Conditioning. Always on time or you don't pay a dime. Visit ac1hourair.com.
Good morning. Welcome to your Monday morning briefing. Here's what you need to know to start your day.
China's upset because of the way Donald Trump is talking about trade with China. They're ripping us up, folks. It's time. I'm so happy they're upset.
Do you look at it yourself and think that's an obscene amount of money?
Yes. I think it's an obscene amount of money. And they're right to protest. They're absolutely right. It is an obscene amount of money. The Sanders campaign, when they talk about it, is absolutely right. It's ridiculous that we should have this kind of money in politics. I agree completely.
Once I'm elected president, I'll have a nice schwitz in the White House, Jim. Then I'll go to the big banks. I'll sit them down, and yada, 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 they'll be broken up.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Good morning, Dan. And in for Amy this morning is John Cash, Chicago Tribune columnist. John, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
So I've got a question. Are you part of the quote-unquote middle-class meltdown? or the middle class uprising? 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. 64636DA, turnkey.pro text line. There has been much made of the meltdown of middle-income families, the stagnation of wages over the last 15 years, the constriction of economic opportunities. But perhaps it's a little bit more complicated than the politicians would have us believe, and perhaps the people that have moved from middle income to higher income are not as vocal as those who haven't.
It also depends on how do you define middle class, okay?
Well, so here's one way to define it. And these are arbitrary numbers, I agree. But our friend Mark Perry from the American Enterprise Institute charted this. Over the last 50 years, one of the most impressive and unreported gains for U.S. households has been the threefold increase in the share of high-income U.S. households earning $100,000 or more per year, which accounts for the declining share of low-income and middle-income households by two different measures. So, for example, this is in constant 2014 dollars. In 1967, so half a century ago, 8% of America, $100,000 or more. Remember, these are constant dollars. Today, well, 2014, the last year data available, nearly 25%. Middle income, $50,000 to $100,000. In 67, it was 33%. In 2014, it's 28%. And low income, which is 50,000 or less, 67, it was 58%. 2014, it's 46%. I mean, without getting into all of the mumbo jumbo, all the numbers, I know it's hard to conceptualize all these numbers I'm suggesting, but the bottom line is go back to the top. The tripling in real terms of high-income households in the United States between 67 and 2014 more than makes up for the decline in middle-income and low-income households 50 years ago.
But think about it. $100,000 in this this AEI study, $100,000 means you're high income, right? And for many people, that's true. It does mean high income if you think of it.
Well, it's top quintile.
Top quintile. But then you think, okay, let's just take our cop and nurse couple. Okay, let's make, and because I don't want to be sexist, let's make the nurse the man and the cop the woman. Okay, in this standard marriage thing, they have 3 kids. They're making $57,000 or a little bit more. Cop starting salary, nurse starting salary.
Starting salary, okay. Starting salary.
Let's say they have 3 kids. They're sending them to Catholic schools. Do they feel that they're like somehow rich, like in the top 1 quintile? I don't think so.
Well, I mean,
I don't think they feel that they're like, hey, I've got it made, man. I don't see it.
Well,
because they're going to have to pay for college. They got to pay for a lot of other stuff.
Well, there are the issues. I mean, so this is part of it, right? I mean, some of the big expenses in your life, the education of your children.
Tell me about it.
Right. You've got 2 boys in college.
Buying 2 houses. That's what I feel like right now.
So that's one, as well as health care. And because government is the primary mover in those spaces over this same period of time, particularly the last 35 years, you've seen an exponential increase in real terms in both. So that, of course, eats into the more money that a lot of these households are making. I mean, that's a fair point. But it's just to say, it's more, the picture is more complicated than, say, Donald Trump would have us believe.
China is upset with Donald Trump.
China.
How dare them? So they go, they're upset. No, here's the story. The biggest story, top of Drudge, big story. China's upset because of the way Donald Trump is talking about trade with China. They're ripping us off, folks. It's time. I'm so happy they're upset. They haven't been upset with us in 30 years. They're never upset.
Yeah, I disagree with that. And by the way, Dan Henninger has an excellent piece in the Wall Street Journal about New York values. And the 2 of the values that have fueled New York's resurgence, despite its poor government, but in terms of its economic resurgence, like, say, from the late 70s when New York City was bankrupt, free trade and immigration. Free trade and immigration. Tyler Cohen writes in the New York Times his piece, Why There's Hope for the Middle Class. Tyler Cohen's a free market economist from George Mason University He writes an excellent blog called Marginal Revolution. I encourage people to check out. But he writes, and he kind of takes into account both sides of this. China's manufacturing has held down American middle-class wages, while soaring Chinese demand for commodities has pushed up resource prices. Of course, cheap Chinese imports have made American paychecks go further, but that is no consolation for people who have lost their jobs or suffered lower wages as a consequence. However, he goes on, better times may be ahead. Higher wages in China and other emerging nations are now limiting the competitive advantage of those economies, and thus a lot of the onshoring that you hear taking place. And perhaps more important for Americans, as China reaches technological maturity, it's likely to shower innovations on consumers, creating a net gain for people in the United States. And he goes on to point out China is a major producer of solar panels, electric cars, innovations in consumer drones, and driverless cars, in addition to biotech and other fields.
All that doesn't help the guy who's out of a job on Main Street now.
I understand.
None of it. It doesn't help the guy who's shuttered, factory shuttered. What bothers me is that Trump and guys like that are going to take advantage of it.
Well, that's it. See, that's the point, is to demagogue the issue, to say, I'm on your side, guy who's on the wrong end of this equation right now. And I understand that. I do. But it's the same thing as we talk about with taxation or other bad government policies. The way to help me is to be punitive to someone else? No, that's not the way. And so the protectionist policies that Trump talks about when he's talking about tariffs on Asian goods or punishing Ford Motor Company if they open a plant in Mexico, they don't help the guy who's on the wrong side of this equation right now. They don't help the guy in Buchanan County, Virginia, the place that Buchanan County, Virginia, 70% of the vote. That is the county that has gone for Trump by the biggest margin of any county in the country. And you know what Buchanan County, Virginia is? It's profiled in Wall Street Journal over the weekend. It's coal country. And you know who's...
Is that where Pat Buchanan comes from?
No, it is not, no. But, and of course, President Obama has decimated the coal industry. And you had Peabody Energy file for bankruptcy protection last
Hillary said
week.
She was going to destroy it completely.
Well, precisely. So when you have government in the business of picking winners and losers, looting, then you can understand why people see Trump as an appealing figure with some of his protectionist rhetoric. But he's just talking about picking different winners and losers. And it puts us in the same poor position of being punitive to some to protect others. And so you're just changing out the disaffected, the same way that President Obama is flacking for a disaffected population that he rode to the presidency by punishing others.
A lot of disaffected people out there. There are a lot of people looking for answers. Their lives were ruined. They're out of jobs. They can't even find part-time jobs. This thing is bad.
Well,
worse than what we say, because I've got a paycheck coming. You got a paycheck coming. The people without the paycheck are the ones who don't have the access to microphones and columns.
Look, I understand, and I'm not being dismissive of that. I'm trying to talk about what's the way forward.
I know.
Yeah, but I mean, so people understand, because if you're for free trade, if you're for this competitive model, then you don't care about what's happened to my industry or what's happened to my job. That's not true. We're just trying to think this through, and I think Tyler Cohen has a pretty good thought piece on topic in the New York Times. He goes on to say, he talks about technology and trade, two of things I mentioned. He also mentions religion, and he uses the Mormons as an example. He's not a Mormon. He writes, Mormons have done relatively well in economic terms, perhaps at least in part because their religious culture encourages behavior consistent with prosperity, such as savings, mutual assistance, family values, and no drug and alcohol abuse. So he says, it's not one thing.
I get that, but you know what? There are a lot of people that have a husband and wife together who save, who follow all the rules.
I agree.
Who do everything. They get screwed, and then you have a bunch of elitists in Washington telling you how you should feel, right? While their kids are getting the scholarships and the help, your kids aren't. I'm just telling you, I'm ready to be a revolutionary, and I've got a job.
Yeah, but that's
because I'm hearing all this nonsense coming from the establishment trying to protect itself.
But I think what I'm trying to make clear to folks who feel like you just described, and there are millions of them, is that this is government is the perverter. It is not markets. It is not people engaged in mutual exchange that's mutually beneficial. Let's go to Candace in DuPage on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Oh, thanks for taking my call. Hi, John.
Hey, Candace.
Okay, when my parents were younger, their house was $57,000. okay, in Decatur, Illinois. On 2 union wages, that was easily paid off within 10 to 15 years, okay? And they had very low property taxes, and the government wasn't out of control. But now look at things.
Right.
Property taxes are out of control, and they only go up.
They're only going to get worse now.
And then look at the cost of groceries. A $5 for a thing of milk. Everything has gone up so high. So I hate when we talk about this and we don't consider. Every time I listen to Larry Kudlow or whatever, he says, "Oh, there's no inflation." Well, what are you talking about? You can't even get a decent house for under. It's a decent house in the suburbs is very expensive. It's typically around $4.
Exactly.
In an A-B neighborhood, okay? So, you're not comparing apples to apples with what used to be. It's just more expensive, period.
Thanks for the call, Candace. We'll pick this up on the other side.
This is the morning show more Chicago radio listeners are choosing. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Oh, the weather. Yes, it's partly sunny and very warm. High of 80 today. Mostly cloudy. Low 51 tonight. Tomorrow, cooler with a partial sunshine. Afternoon shower in spots. High of 63. How's that, Jim Telemont?
Excellent, John. Thanks so much. Good morning to you. Good morning, Dan. CTA Blue Line service is disrupted right now between Jefferson Park and Western. There's a medical emergency on the tracks. You could use a shuttle bus or the Milwaukee bus as an alternate. Eden's inbound, 26 minutes. Lake Hook to Montrose, outbound 21. The Kennedy, looking at 36 minutes. O'Hare to downtown, outbound 55. The Eisenhower is now an hour and 2 minutes. Thorndale to the post office. 47 minutes from Manheim, outbound 45 to Thorndale. Stevenson, an hour, 3:55 to Lakeshore Drive. 45 minutes from the Tri-State, outbound 40 minutes to 3:55. Ryan, 25 minutes, 95th to downtown. Northbound Tri-State really jammed, 95th to the Stevenson with a crash in the left lane. Then slow Plainfield Road to 47th, and from the Reagan Tollway to the Grand Avenue curve. Reagan Tollway really slow from the Myers Toll to 294. Veterans Memorial bottled up from Boughton to the Reagan Tollway. Indiana Toll Road, as usual, has resurfacing delays in Porter and LaPorte counties in both directions. Jim Talamonte in the Guardian Security Services Traffic Center. The stock market may seem like a roller coaster ride, but your finances don't have to be. You may be wondering, is there another big correction on the horizon? If so, are you prepared? Or are you at the mercy of stockbrokers if that happens? Let Online Trading Academy teach you how to navigate the stock market during these changing times. They offer professional trading and investing education for every skill level. They'll teach you a rules-based strategy, trading on knowledge, not speculation, so you can identify market changes before they happen. Reserve your seat today for a free half-day training course at their state-of-the-art education facility in Lombard. Call 877-OTA-CHIC now. Mention this ad, and Online Trading Academy will send you a free home study video course valued at $247 just for calling. Call now, 877-OTA-CHIC.
Discover Westmont, a community nestled in the heart of DuPage County. With top-notch schools, beautiful affordable housing, and excellent dining and shopping, Westmont makes a great place to live, work, and play. Choose Westmont. Discover how your business can flourish and grow with a wonderful central location providing rapid access to Chicago's key expressways, airports, and many family-friendly amenities. Add quick transportation on the Burlington train line, and that means simple and easy travel for everyone. Westmont is committed to working collaboratively with you to facilitate inquiries about your family or business relocation. We'll help your company navigate to Westmont for a great experience. Call Larry Forsberg at Westmont Economic Development at 630-824-9337. That's 630-824-9337 to find out about incentives that can help you plan your development, relocation, or expansion. Discover all Westmont has to offer. For more information, visit ChooseWestmont.com. That's ChooseWestmont.com.
CertaPro painters are here for every stage of your life, from moving into a new home, creating the ideal nursery, to reinventing your living space. CertaPro painting experts create the perfect setting while you do life. They came to our home and brightened our walls and our moods so very quiet they wouldn't wake a baby. But the best part? They clean up after themselves so you don't have to do it. And now that spring is here, it is the perfect time to spruce up your home's exterior. Take a look at your home. Do you see chipping, peeling, fading? Well, leave it to CertaPro painting experts to refresh, renew, and protect your biggest investment, your home. Now is the time to call for your free estimate and schedule your exterior painting project. 1-800-GO-CERTA, 1-800-GOCERTA. That's CERTA with a C. Or visit CertaPro.com today. CertaPro.com. CertaPro Painters, we do painting, you do life. Each CertaPro Painters business is independently owned and operated.
I have struggled with irritable bowel syndrome for 40 years. Really struggled with it. And I want you to know that since I have been taking Balance of Nature, I don't have it anymore. After 40 years, I'm 75 years old, and after 40 years of struggling with this, and, early on taking all kinds of medication and this, that, and the other thing, back in October, I was able to cancel my appointment with the gastroenterologist. Your products have made my life. They have improved the quality of my life so tremendously. I can't be grateful enough. So please thank you all, and please, if you ever have a chance to, please thank Dr. Howard.
Good health is just a phone call away. What are you waiting for? Call now and take the health challenge to get a free month's supply of Balance of Nature. Call 1-800-2468-751. That's 1-800-2468-751. Or go online to balanceofnature.com. Use promo code CHICAGO.
AM 560, The Answer.
Dan and Chicago Tribune columnist John Cass in for Amy this morning, and we're talking about middle-income families. We don't live in a case system. It's not class, it's income. It's not permanent. And what I'm suggesting is some of the disappearance of middle-income families has to do with middle-class uprising, not a middle-class meltdown, quote-unquote middle class. That's the term that's used, but we're talking about middle-income families moving around. Income mobility. Sean in Elmwood Park, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
As I hear the wolf of K Street both placate and deceive at the same time, it's disgusting to me that people don't realize the other hidden tax is not just the inflation that Candace spoke of, but it's the hidden tax of government corruption. So as these lobbyists who pretend to be developers, who pretend to be businessmen, buy off politicians for TIF agreements, for example, that is spread out to everyone else. That government corruption is spread out. And as ethanol subsidies that we all know the comb-over loves, those are spread out among the people who can afford them the least, which is why the farmer married to the husky woman drives the $80,000 dually, while the people who pay for that subsidy ride the bus. That is what is happening. It is the hidden tax of corruption. And that's when you get these 75-year-old hacks like Black who come on and skip over the Lehman Brothers fraud that Kasich stuck in. So they want to put him in so that can continue to go on, because that's a tax on everybody listening to this show.
Right.
So if you support these guys, you're either in on the scam or too stupid to see one.
Hey, I'm just going to have a cigar with the guy. I'm not going to, buy what he's saying.
Yeah, to me it seems like that's more where the revolt is coming from people that recognize the system is rigged against them, the people who play by the rules, as you suggested. Tom in Oswego, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Good morning, gentlemen. I agree with Sean. The system is rigged, and it is very difficult for us to keep working. I'm a small businessman. I boil a lot of our social ills down to two things, and I firmly believe this. It's one, family unit. Stressing that the family unit should stay together. You don't hear about that in politics. I think that's destroying our society. And two, I think it's the faith, whether you're a churchgoer or not, but people need to believe in something more than just themselves on this planet. And I really believe those two things are really hurting all of us. It's sort of a free-for-all out there right now, and anything goes, and anything that you believe in should be acceptable, even if you're a super minority. Not to pick on a certain group, but this $15 an hour wage problem that we see, they interviewed some people, and God bless them. I hope that they can survive in a good way. The first thing out of their mouths was, well, I'm a single mother with two children, 22 years old, and I've worked at McDonald's for 5 years. There's your problem.
Amen, Tom. Thanks for the call.
Listen to Dan and Amy on your smartphone. Download the AM 560 mobile app today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
The big DuPage County Home Remodeling Expo, a free home show that's open to the public, is coming to the Odeum Expo Center this weekend only. If you're looking to remodel your kitchen, bathroom, basement, or maybe get a new roof, flooring, windows, or siding, then this is the event for you. At this 2-day expo, you'll meet local and national contractors displaying their products and services. Get new ideas, set up estimates, and talk directly with contractors, many of which are offering huge discounts. Maybe you need a new furnace, state-of-the-art generator, or just a handyman. You'll find everything you need under one roof. Increase the value of your home and bring your friends and family. Special announcement! Attend this free home show and get a free gift at the door. You heard it right, that's a free gift at the door. Remember, the DuPage County Home Remodeling Expo this weekend only at the Odeum Expo Center in Villa Park. Get more information at homeshowevent.com. That's homeshowevent.com.
AM 560, The Answer.
Coming up at 7:37, Illinois State Comptroller Leslie Munger isn't going to pay the politicians. That's a good start. We'll talk to her after we check the headlines with Mike Scott.
Dan and John, good morning. 57 degrees in Chicago. Death toll from a powerful earthquake in Ecuador soaring past 250. The 7.8 quake hit Saturday night. This team was working to free a woman trapped in rubble after a building she was shopping in collapsed on top of her.
The survivor says that she's stuck from the waist down. She's stable, she's conscious of what's happening, but we cannot get ahead of ourselves. We have to try to get her out as fast as possible to avoid more injuries.
Rescuers continue searching using their bare hands to find people trapped under the rubble. American military personnel joining earthquake relief efforts in Japan, helping after Japanese authorities struggled to feed and care for tens of thousands left homeless after two powerful quakes last week left 40 dead. The political future of Brazil's President Dilma Rousseff is in greater doubt today after the Chamber of Deputies voted to open impeachment proceedings. It will be up to the Senate in Brazil now to put her on trial. Donald Trump keeping up his attack on what he says is a corrupt primary process ahead of tomorrow's New York primary.
You're basically saying, Delegate, listen, we're going to send you to Mar-a-Lago on a Boeing 757. You're going to use the spa. You're going to this, you're going to that. We want your vote. That's a corrupt system.
Trump campaigning in Staten Island, New York. Meantime, the Supreme Court will hear a big immigration case today. Justices will consider the case challenging the president's executive action, shielding several million illegal immigrants from deportation. Father of two fatally shot in the Lawndale neighborhood on Chicago's west side on Sunday. Frederick Blunt was gunned down near his vehicle at West 13th and South Central Park Avenue around 1:30 in the morning. Police say Blunt was hit in the head and was already dead when they arrived on the scene. Illinois Comptroller Leslie Munger says she and other office holders will have to wait for their paychecks, just like others in the state during the budget impasse. The rivalry between Republican Governor Bruce Rauner and Democrat House Speaker Mike Madigan continues to intensify. This past week marked the first time they were in the same room since December for negotiations. Two firefighters are recovering after battling a Northwest Side blaze. Fire broke out yesterday morning in the basement of a home near Devon and Karloff. Both victims are in good condition. Chicago sports, NHL playoffs, Blues over the Blackhawks 3-2. St. Louis leads that first-round series 2-1. Tampa Bay over the White Sox on Sunday 3-2, while Colorado blanked the Cubs 2-0. The news service of LifeLock. Grabbing coffee or breakfast? If you swipe your card, you leave a trail of digital information. Thieves can use that to steal your identity. Ever hear of LifeLock? Their U.S.-based team of specialists help resolve identity theft problems. Go to lifelock.com now. Use promo code RISK to save 10%. A check of traffic and weather is on the way next on AM 560.
The average Republican voter out there right now is looking for an outsider who will blow the whole damn thing up.
The Joe Walsh Show.
I don't want somebody who comes from Washington. I don't want somebody to get along with Democrats, not this year. I want the whole system blown up. That's why Trump, or that's why Cruz.
The Joe Walsh Show. Weeknights starting at 5. Right after Sean Hannity at 2 on AM 560. The Answer.
This year, that's where Republican voters are at.
It's Galaxy's free sale. Free installation, free design, and free financing.
773-783-8300. Call Galaxy.
Hi,
Hi, this is Shalom Klein of Get Down to Business, the show for small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship, powered by Tandem HR. So mom and dad, after saving for years to send your children to college, you discover A, you didn't save enough, and B, where you've been saving is completely exposed to the college aid formulas, so you get to pay more than you should, and C, your student did not make the best career decision before choosing their college or major. Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. Don't wait until your student is in high school to figure this out. The earlier you get on the right track, the better your results. That's why Everett Wealth Solutions recommends getting advice from a fiduciary advisor with college funding knowledge. A fiduciary represents you, not a financial institution. They will get to know you and the complete financial picture of your life. For more tips, advice, and stories of entrepreneurial successes, listen to Get Down to Business with me, Shalom Klein, heard Sunday evenings at 6. Your Business Minute of the Day is brought to you by Everett Wealth Solutions.
My name is David Hochberg, and I'm Vice President of Lending at Pearl Mortgage. That's right, I'm now Vice President of Lending at Pearl Mortgage. If you're looking to purchase a new home or refinance your existing home, give me a call. I'm the same guy that's provided listeners with honest advice and outstanding customer service for the past 13 years. The only thing that's changed is where I work. When you wanted to purchase a home after filing bankruptcy or when your home was foreclosed, you called me and I helped you. When you tried to purchase a home you couldn't afford, you called me and I advised you to purchase a less expensive home. If you want to talk with me about a mortgage, please give me a call at 312-751-1333. That's 312-751-1333. Email David at perldavid.com. That's David at perldavid.com. Or visit my website, am560david.com. 312-751-1333. Pearl Mortgage is an equal housing lender, Illinois residential mortgage licensee, 4358, licensed by DBO under California RMLA and MLS 19186. PearlMortgage.com licensing.
7:37 in our Guardian Security Services Traffic Center. Here is Jim Talamonte.
Thanks, Mike. The inbound Kennedy has delays starting at Cumberland, 41 minutes O'Hare to downtown, outbound 55. Eden's 26 minutes, Lake Cook to Montrose, outbound 27. The Eisenhower's an hour and 5 minutes from Thorndale to the Loop, and outbound an hour 5 as well. Crash at Central on the right shoulder. Stevenson, an hour, 3:55 to Lakeshore Drive, outbound 40 minutes. Ryan, 25 minutes, 95th to downtown. Northbound Tri-State, jammed Harlem to the Stevenson with a crash on the left shoulder. Very slow from the Reagan Tollway to the Grand Avenue curve. Reagan Tollway stop and go. Myers toll to the Tri-State. Traffic is a service of Napa Auto Parts. This month at participating Napa Auto Parts stores, get VP ready-to-use small engine fuel for just $4.99. The perfect premixed fuel for all your lawn and garden equipment. That's Napa know-how, while supplies last. Traffic answers when you need them most. Jim Talamonte, AM 560, The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Your official Chicagoland weather forecast from the aircomfort.com Weather Center. Partly sunny, very warm today, high near 80. We'll bottom out at 51 overnight and a high of 63 with an afternoon shower tomorrow. 52 officially at O'Hare. Next news coming up at 8. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and John Cass continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Turnkey IT, giving you the freedom to focus on your business while they handle the technical stuff. Turnkey IT.
If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Good morning, Dan and John Cash, Chicago Tribune columnist par excellence.
It's French for I'm pretty good. Huh?
That's right. And for Amy this morning. And John, this from Brasilia, Brazil.
Land of the tiny heads.
Home of the 2016 Olympics, Rio. Mm-hmm. Oh, boy. They've impeached their country's president. They accused her of using accounting tricks in managing the federal budget to maintain spending.
That's 4 out of the, I think, last 8 or 10 presidents.
Could we
in Brazil?
Could
right?
we import that protocol to D.C. and Springfield? I mean, we'd get rid of all the politicians overnight if it was just if the threshold was using accounting tricks to maintain unsustainable spending.
You know what? If we did, then you would be kissing the behind of soccer, which would be worth it. To just suspend our Constitution for about 2 weeks so I could listen to you talk that way.
I would be
awesome.
willing to make a compromise with soccer if we could get that standard imposed in Illinois for starters. And speaking of trying to impose standards as it comes to other people's money and government. We're now pleased to be joined by Illinois State Comptroller Leslie Munger, who had a press conference yesterday where she said no more pay, at least for right now, for state politicians because we can't afford it. They need to get in line like everybody else. There's a start. Comptroller Munger, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Jan. Good morning, John. Thanks for having me on this morning.
Good morning.
So what was the impetus to make this move to suspend legislative pay as well as the pay of constitutional officers?
Well, I just want to make it totally clear. I'm not suspending pay. What I am is really ending the prioritization of that pay in line, in our line of unpaid bills. I've been traveling the state all over for the past many months, and things are just getting worse as we go now 10 months without a budget. I hear from university presidents who haven't been paid, social service organizations all around the state laying people off, medical care providers who provide services to state employees who we have not paid for years. And it just continued to strike me that how unfair this is, that we are getting our paychecks on time when no one else is.
But let me, if I can, I just want to clarify, because Governor Quinn tried to do this and he was shot down by a Cook County judge, is that why we're making a distinction between formally suspending pay, which Governor Quinn was told he couldn't do, versus the prioritization of pay?
Correct. I am obligated under state statute to pay legislators monthly. This is something that they voted for. They voted themselves continuing pay in the absence of a budget.
Of course.
And I do not get to override that law. However, I need three things as a comptroller to make a payment. I need the legal authority, which that statute gives me. I need the voucher, which we have, but I also need the money, which we do not have.
You need what?
Money.
Oh, you mean you can't just give them, you have to actually have money to pay them. Okay.
Right. How about that? Isn't that a novel concept
Radical.
in our state?
Right.
But here's the thing. This amounts to, doesn't this kind of amount to bailing out the Titanic with a teaspoon? I mean, what are we talking about in terms of the monthly nut for state PALs versus the backlog of bills for social service providers and others?
It is. I mean, it's $1.3 million every month of the elected, the constitutional officers, and I'm in there too. So my salary will get delayed along with the legislative pay. So it's $1.3 million a month. But you know what? That $1.3 million a month, that's a lot to a social service organization waiting for payment, or to the small doctor who is waiting for payment, or for a business that is owed money by the state.
Mm-hmm.
So, this helps us pay them a little faster. And frankly, I think it's really about fairness and really sending a strong signal that we are all in this together. We will process, under the law, we will process these payments that are due to be processed monthly on the pay date. But then rather than pulling these salary payments up in line and really jumping the line, they'll go in line on the date for paid for April 30th. And when we get to the date in the future where we pay April 30th bills, we will pay the salaries. And I think fundamentally it helps everyone understand. It puts us in the shoes of the people who were sent to serve. And every time our legislature passes more spending bills without the money to fund it, it lengthens the delay of payment of bills. And so I think definitely the discouragement to do that.
And just a point of order, you mentioned that legislators voted to themselves to continue receiving payment in spite of the lack of a budget and all of the backlog of bills you've described. Am I recalling correctly that was a party line vote where it was Democrat supermajorities who voted to continue legislative pay?
You are recalling correctly, John.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and it's like,
that was
yes,
important.
Absolutely. They decided, and Governor Quinn tried to stop their pay, line item vetoed their payout when they didn't get a solution to pensions. And so they made sure that no matter what, they would be paid in the absence of a budget. And so it really takes the pressure off of them. And I think, we all need pressure on us. We're putting pressure on people all around the state. And those of us who are sent to serve, it's only fair that we get in line with the rest of them.
Now, you are under pressure, it seems, by Susanna Mendoza, the Chicago city clerk, who's in the papers criticizing you. I noticed that in either paper, when she's mentioned as a critic of Ms. Munger, Mendoza is not characterized as a creature of House Speaker Mike Madigan. I wonder what you think of that.
Well, I think fundamentally she agreed that this is a good thing to do, so I think that's interesting. Maybe she'll talk to her people in her party to also get to the bargaining table and work hard to try and get a balanced budget in place. I think, it's easy to stand on the sidelines and throw stones. She's been living a taxpayer dime for 16 years in Springfield and in Chicago. The votes that she made as a legislator, the legislation she carried for Speaker Madigan when she served in the Illinois House, has caused a lot of the problems we have today. So, I'm glad that she agreed with me, and might have helped had she not voted to pass so many unbalanced budgets over the years she was in the legislature. We wouldn't have all these problems today.
Now, Attorney General Lisa Madigan, Daddy's little girl, is suggesting that perhaps state workers should not be paid, suggesting potentially or moving potentially to precipitate a shutdown of the government. Now, this is something normally that has the left in verbal hysterics, but what of Lisa Madigan's suggestion that state workers shouldn't be paid if there's not a budget and the prospect of shutting down state government effectively?
Well, we're paying state workers now because we're obligated to do so under federal labor laws, and we subject the state to triple fines on the payroll if we do not pay them. She's making the case that because we don't have a budget, the federal labor laws don't apply. And, I'm going to follow the law as the comptroller and see where some of these things net out. But right now, I believe I'm doing the right thing, paying state workers because we're obligated to do so under the law.
So is she trying to precipitate a crisis for political reasons? I mean, you're interested in paying them. You're describing what federal labor law mandates that you do. So what's her angle here to suggest that state workers shouldn't be paid?
I'm sure she's trying to bring some pressure on all involved, in particular the governor, to get things resolved. And right now, as I said, I'm really just trying to follow the law on this one. And I do fundamentally believe that people who we ask to show up to work to keep the state going, those people in my office who are making sure the pension checks go out, the people who are there to help you get your driver's license, when we ask them to show up to work, we ought to pay them. And so I feel like we're on the right side of the moral argument here. We'll see what the courts say.
Well, you want to hear what Cass says?
Yes.
We
all do.
What would John Cass do? All right, here's what I do. You want to bring pressure? Put, the road builders? The road builders, let's see. The guys who pour the asphalt, the guys who do the concrete, the guys who work on all the highway projects. These gentlemen, I'm speculating here after 30 years of watching this, know people in both parties and a lot of guys in what we used to call the West Side Block years ago. And if people need to get some pressure, if you slow down the checks to the road projects, do you think that maybe Johnny Cullerton and the hand inside his puppet head, Jimmy DeLeo, and other people might come to talk about equitable government and financing? Just wondering.
Well, I'll say everything is slowed down right now. We have 2 months of a backlog of bills, and the only organizations that are getting paid earlier than they would normally be paid now are the social service organizations that literally we owe a lot of money to, that are facing not being able to meet payroll or shutting down programs.
The road builders could be in this mix, right? For the future. Like to be on
in line.
All right. Okay, she is Illinois State Comptroller Leslie Munger.
Thanks for the call.
Comptroller Munger, thanks for joining us. And you want to stay tuned on this because I think we both want to know what asphalt is. I know what asphalt is.
You know what it is. How you doing? How you doing?
Comptroller Munger, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dave.
And she joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Weather, asphalt boy.
Asphalt, as you know, is that stuff that people put down that others call asphalt. Okay? Partly sunny today, very warm, high in the 80s. Maybe at 80, but lower near the lake. Tonight, mostly cloudy, low 51. And tomorrow, cooler with partial sunshine. Perfect day for Jim Telemonte. to look outside.
All right, thanks, John. Well, the asphalt is pretty heavy right now on eastbound 8094, loaded down with delays. Kennedy Avenue to Klein Avenue with a crash in the left lane. The Indiana Toll Road has those construction delays in both directions in Porter and LaPorte counties. Eden's inbound, heavy approaching the junction. 21 minutes, Lake Cook to Montrose, outbound 27. Kennedy, 41 minutes, O'Hare to downtown, outbound. It's an hour and 3 minutes to O'Hare. The Eisenhower, an hour and 5 minutes. Thorndale to the post office, an outbound, an hour 5 as well. Stevenson, an hour and 8 minutes. 355 to Lakeshore Drive, outbound 40 minutes. Ryan is 25 minutes, 95th to downtown. Eastbound Reagan Tollway really slow this morning, especially from 94. Jim Talamonte of the Guardian Security Services Traffic Center.
On AM 560 The Answer, we talk about the important issues that affect your world. Things like the economy, education, and foreign policy. There's always so much going on in the news that we don't always have the time to drill down and talk about the big ideas behind the big issues. That's where Upstream Ideas comes in. Upstream Ideas, online at upstream-ideas.com, in partnership with the Illinois Policy Institute, provides the kind of information that informs the policy discussions happening here on AM 560. At Upstream Ideas, you'll broaden the debate, move beyond partisan assumptions, and challenge accepted orthodoxies. In other words, Upstream Ideas goes against the current and thinks upstream. Go online now to upstream-ideas.com. That's upstream-ideas.com. You'll be armed with new information and fresh perspectives to spur you on to make the state of Illinois and the United States of America a bit more free, a bit more just, and a bit more civilized. Upstream-ideas.com.
Well, she's sitting curled up on my lap as we speak. Beautiful Bella's my long-haired dachshund. She was thrown out of a pickup truck going 30 miles an hour, and she disappeared into the woods with the wild animals, boars and coyotes. About 4 weeks later, she just appeared as she was a mess. Her fur was matted. She scratched almost nonstop. My friend suggested that I order this stuff called Dinovite.
DINOVITE.com. 859-428-1000.
She gobbles it up. She has been itch-free ever since, and her fur is gorgeous. Anyone out there who has a rescue dog, start them on a Dinovite diet for at least a 90-day period. They bond better with the people who take good care of them. They are going to be your buddy for a very, very long time.
859-428-1000. 859-428-1000. DINOVITE.com.
Your favorite restaurant, a smashing Broadway play, the most talented doctor. There are many things in life that'll make you go the extra distance. So why not take extra time when it comes to your dental health? That's why Artistic Dentistry in Homer Glen should be your first and only call at 708-301-6060. Artistic Dentistry is Destination Dentistry. Dr. Cruz and his team see patients from as far as the northern suburbs to northwest Indiana. And they're so confident you'll receive the smile you want, they'll pay for your gas. That's right. All new patients receive a $25 gas card and a free Zoom take-home whitening kit during their first visit. With a 5-star rating from more than 300 online reviewers, you'll see why Artistic Dentistry can be Destination Dentistry for you and your family. Schedule now at 708-301-6060 or online at artisticdentistry-pc.com. Must mention this ad for gas card while supplies last.
AM 560, The Answer.
John Cass in for Amy, and I'm in for myself, and Larry David was in for Bernie Sanders on SNL, and he gave the best characterization of how Bernie Sanders talks I've heard.
Wolf, I won 1,000,000 debates. When people hear my message, it resonates loud and clear, because I always talk like I'm on the other side of a river.
He really did nail it. That's kind of how Bernie Sanders talks. We'll talk about Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton and John Cass's column on that Chicago Police Department report coming up.
You've made the switch, and it feels so good. You've switched to Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer. And now, a moment of objectivism with your Ron Brook and the Ayn Rand Institute.
The critics of income inequality say they are for social justice. But what does that mean? It means that if you're really productive, if you work hard, create lots of wealth, and make a lot of money, you're doing something bad. You're creating inequality. So what's fair? Well, what's fair is that government take a bunch of your money and give it to other people. Why do they deserve it? Because they didn't create much wealth. That's what it comes down to. Social justice says to punish people who've done nothing wrong for the sake of other people who have not been wronged. On the other hand, justice says to punish people for the wrong they've done to others. To learn more, visit ARIradio.com. From the Ayn Rand Institute, I'm Yaron Brook.
This has been a moment of objectivism from the Ayn Rand Institute. To learn more, listen to the Yaron Brook Show, Saturdays at 4 on AM 560, and visit ARIradio.com.
Why are Ayn Rand's ideas so compelling? Her worldview, her philosophy, expressed dramatically in her novels Atlas Shrugged and The Fountainhead, embodies the ideals stated by the Founding Fathers in the Declaration of Independence and sets forth the requirements necessary to achieve a flourishing life. She called her philosophy Objectivism and said it was a philosophy for living on Earth. Today, decades after her death, Objectivism continues to stir debate and inspire passion for the spirit of individualism and the enduring American dream.
It's time for a little R&R, courtesy of ChicagoRadioDeals.com. 2 words, Door County. Take a few days off and escape to Wisconsin. Head up to the White Lace Inn, a gorgeous bed and breakfast in Sturgeon Bay. The White Lace Inn features 18 inviting guest rooms and suites and 4 elegant turn-of-the-century neighboring homes. Enjoy the gardens, gazebos, the glory that is Door County. This is a $300 gift certificate for only $150 on ChicagoRadioDeals.com. It can be applied to overnight stays or items in their store. This deal is exclusive and limited, so don't wait. For another fabulous getaway adventure, purchase an overnight stay package for the Schuster Mansion Bed and Breakfast in Milwaukee. Spend the night in Molly's room, their 2-room luxury suite with a private bath and premier concierge service. Includes breakfast in the Victorian dining room and fresh chocolate chip cookies. Yours for only $85 per couple, valued at $169 a night. Check out all the deals on ChicagoRadioDeals.com and get out of town.
Hi, I'm Lex Howard, CEO of Balance of Nature. I occasionally take new customer calls, and often people tell me that they have been hearing our advertisements for years. What are you waiting for? Start now and begin experiencing the benefits of Balance of Nature in your life.
It's a very good product, even if I open the capsules. It tastes very good.
I like it. That's why I'm reordering it. Matter of fact, I think I may give it to my son. You can't point to anything except you suddenly realize you're not dizzy anymore, you don't have a headache anymore, you're sleeping pretty good. It's not a case of where this hurts and now it doesn't hurt anymore. It's difficult for people to realize it's helping them because they're feeling like they should feel.
Good health is just a phone call away. What are you waiting for? Call now and take the health challenge to get a free month's supply of Balance of Nature. Call 1-800-2468-751. That's 1-800-2468-751. Or go online to balanceofnature.com. Use promo code CHICAGO.
Dennis Prager restates his position on Donald Trump.
I am as opposed to Donald Trump winning the nomination as I can be because I am a conservative. I don't know any conservative positions that he holds. Having said that, I would still vote for him because between this insufferable Republican and the insufferable Democrat, I will take the insufferable Republican.
The Dennis Prager Show, weekdays at 11, right before Sean Hannity at 2 on AM 560. The Answer.
Mike Rowe here with a quick IAQ test from my buddy Bill. Wait, I didn't study. IAQ stands for Indoor Air Quality, something 1 hour excels at. Well, I aced my SATs, so... Yes or no, do you breathe inside your home? Yeah. And what do you breathe? Air. And what's in that air? Air? Sorry, we were looking for dust mites, household pollutants, even formaldehyde. Wait, I need to move. Or you could call 1 hour and improve your IAQ. That sounds smarter. Let's see how you do with the disclaimer.
Each independent franchise is licensed in its respective state or county.
Not bad.
Strap it on and hunker down. Milwaukee County Sheriff David Clark joins us at 8:08 to respond to that Chicago Police Department report. But now let's check the headlines with Mike Scott.
Dan, CTU is rejecting an independent fact finder's report on a new contract. Father of 2 fatally shot in the Lawndale neighborhood over the weekend. Bond denied for a man charged in a deadly West Side shooting. A man is charged with running onto the field during the Chicago Fire game. Blues meet the Blackhawks in Game 3, while the Sox and Cubs fell in Sunday action. Partly sunny day ahead. Very warm with a high of 80. Complete look at weather after Fox News. WIND Chicago News Time is 8 o'clock.
Fox News Radio. I'm Dave Anthony. After Republicans from 26 states thwarted President Obama's controversial executive actions on illegal immigrants in court, He's taking his case to the Supreme Court today. Fox's John Decker live at the White House.
The president's executive actions would allow about 4 million illegal immigrants to remain in the country and apply for work permits if they've been here at least 5 years and haven't committed any crimes. The White House says the program is a way for the government to prioritize which illegal immigrants it will move first to deport. But Texas and 25 other states sued to stop the initiative, and a federal district judge in Texas and the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit said the program could not be implemented. Now the shorthanded Supreme Court will have their say. Dave?
John, they keep trying to find survivors in earthquake-devastated Ecuador.
The survivor says that she's stuck from the waist down. She's stable. She's conscious of what's happening.
At least 272 others were killed in the rubble of collapsed buildings. The search also continues in Japan after back-to-back quakes last week left 42 dead, and American aid is arriving.
A pair of U.S. Osprey transport aircraft arrive at a Japanese military base to pick up supplies. At least 2,400 homes destroyed, many others damaged and potentially unusable, and many public shelters now full, some survivors having to sleep in their cars. In Tokyo, Alistair Wanglund, Fox News.
The Boston Marathon is underway. The disabled participants have started the race amid a lot of security 3 years after the deadly bombings at the finish line.
They're setting up shop at more than 50 observation points near the finish line, also at areas where crowds will gather, like T-stops, banning drones, discouraging use of backpacks and large bags.
Jackie Heinrich with Fox 25 TV. An Ohio man accused of supporting ISIS and plotting to attack the U.S. Capitol goes to court this hour for a hearing to determine if Christopher Cornell's mentally competent to stand trial. His father claims he was misled and coerced by a snitch. Fox News Radio, fair and balanced.
Mostly sunny this morning. We have 53 degrees. It's 8:02 on AM 560. The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. The morning commute for riders on the CTA Blue Line seriously delayed after a person jumped onto the tracks and died on the northwest side. The incident happening around 7 a.m. near the Belmont station. Jim Talamonte will be along shortly with more on the suspended service and the interruptions between Jefferson Park and the western Milwaukee stops. Father of two fatally shot in the Lawndale neighborhood on Chicago's west side. It happened early Sunday morning when Frederick Blunt was gunned down next to his vehicle on West 13th and South Central Park Avenue. Chicago police report at least 10 have been wounded in shootings in Chicago since Sunday morning. A Washington State man released from prison after a prosecutor concluded he was wrongly convicted in the 1957 killing of a schoolgirl says he intends to sue the state of Illinois. Jack McCullough spoke with the Associated Press on Sunday, 2 days after a judge vacated his 2012 conviction in the slaying of 7-year-old Maria Ridolph. McCullough called the investigation by DeKalb County seriously flawed. Chicago Teachers Union says the countdown toward a possible strike has begun after it rejected the recommendation of a neutral arbitrator that it accept a contract offer from the Chicago Public Schools. Plans are in the works for an upgrade to the outdoor lighting system in Chicago. Mayor Emanuel's office says more than 270,000 lights, street lamps, will be replaced with LED lights. Chicago sports, St. Louis over the Blackhawks 3-2. Blues now lead that Stanley Cup first-round playoff set 2-1. Tampa Bay over the White Sox 3-2. Colorado beat the Cubs 2-0. The news, a service of Hum by Verizon. It's the technology designed to make your car smarter, safer, and more connected. Hum is easy. Just plug it in, and you'll get vehicle diagnostics, emergency assistance, and pinpoint roadside assistance. Get some peace of mind and a smarter, safer, more connected car. Visit hum.com now. 8:04, time for the AM 560 Business Beat from the Fox Business Network, a service of turnkey.pro. Here's Jenny Casola.
With the Fox Business Network, Morgan Stanley's profit plunged at the beginning of this year. The big bank blames a decline in trading and weaker investment banking activity. Another sporting goods chain is failing. Sport Chalet, a California-based chain with more than 50 locations, is holding going out of business sales. The company that brings you Pepsi-Cola, Cheetos, and Gatorade is reporting a better-than-expected winter quarter. PepsiCo says it was helped by new products and cost-cutting. Disney princesses and Frozen dolls are big business. Hasbro says the dolls helped it to a more than 40% increase in sales of girls' toys in the winter quarter. Hasbro also saw higher sales of Star Wars-themed toys. Sales of toys to boys increased more than 20%, and it also had good sales of Play-Doh. Oil prices are lower after OPEC nations failed to agree on a production cap. With the Fox Business Report, I'm Ginny Cosola.
8:05 in Chicago. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Personal finance is 80% behavior, 20% head knowledge.
Dave Ramsey.
The reason you're in debt is behavior, not math. The way you get out of debt is behavior, change, not math. You can't borrow your way out of debt. How many times have you heard someone say, I had a whole bunch of credit card debt and I paid it off by getting a second mortgage? You didn't pay it off, you moved it.
The Dave Ramsey Show, weeknights starting at 7, right before Michael Medved at 10. Presented by Wintrust Community Bank on AM 560. The Answer.
I'm Nick Soboleski, a Select Quote agent with a true story that could save you hundreds of dollars a year. A woman named Linda just called. Her husband, Ray, has a $300,000 group life insurance policy, but is changing jobs and can't take it with him. Well, I impartially shopped the highly rated term life insurance companies we represent and found Ray, who is 41 and takes medication to control his cholesterol, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for under $26 a month. That's almost twice the coverage for less than half of what he had paid. If SelectQuote hasn't shopped for your life insurance, you're probably paying too much.
For your free quote, call 1-800-467-5125. That's 1-800-467-5125. 1-800-467-5125. Or go to SelectQuote.com. We shop. You save. Get full details on the example policy at SelectQuote.com/commercials. Your price can vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors not available in all states.
8:07 in our Guardian Security Services Traffic Center. Let's get the latest with Jim Talamonte.
Thanks, Mike. And CTA Blue Line service remains suspended between Jefferson Park and Western. Shuttle buses are running. Barrington eastbound 14 is closed from Cuba to Hart due to a crash. Big delays on 8094 westbound. Grant to Klein, with crash blocking 2 left lanes. Eastbound slow Kennedy to Klein, where there's a left lane blocked with crash. Eden's 21 minutes. Lake Hook to Montrose outbound 27. The Kennedy now 50 minutes. O'Hare to downtown, heavier in the express. Outbound an hour and 5 minutes to O'Hare. The Eisenhower an hour 5 either way between Thorndale and downtown. Stevenson an hour and 8 minutes. 355 to Lakeshore Drive outbound 40 minutes. Ryan 25 minutes. 95th to downtown. Tollways are pretty heavy too. Traffic answers when you need them most. I'm Jim Talamonte. AM 560 The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Your official Chicagoland weather forecast from the aircomfort.com Weather Center. 80 years of quality mechanical solutions for your business. Here's our meteorologist, Kevin Snyder.
Partial sunshine today with a high 81, then becoming mostly cloudy tonight, low 49. Tomorrow, partly sunny with an afternoon shower in spots with a high 62 and a shower in spots at night, low 51. Couple of showers still around mainly late in the day Wednesday, high 62. I'm Kevin Snyder on AM 560, The Answer.
Currently 52 at O'Hare, 52 along Chicago's lakefront. Next news, 8:30. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy. And with John Cass sitting in for Amy this morning on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by the Central DuPage Home Remodeling Expo, Saturday and Sunday, April 23rd and 24th. For more, please visit homeshowevent.com.
Good morning. Welcome to your Monday morning briefing. Here's what you need to know to start your day.
China's upset because of the way Donald Trump is talking about trade with China. They're ripping us off, folks. It's time. I'm so happy they're upset.
Do you look at it yourself and think that's an obscene amount of money?
Yes, I think it's an obscene amount of money. And they're right to protest. They're absolutely right. It is an obscene amount of money. The Sanders campaign, when they talk about it, is absolutely right. It's ridiculous that we should have this kind of money in politics. I agree completely.
Once I'm elected president, I'll have a nice schwitz in the White House, Jim. Then I'll go to the big banks. I'll sit them down, and yada, 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 they'll be broken up.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Good morning, Dan, and in for Amy is Chicago Tribune columnist John Cass. And John, you wrote about the Chicago Police Department report that was issued by Tiny Dancer Star Chamber last week. Over the weekend, and reverberations are still being felt by that report. I think they're going to be felt for a long time to come because it accused the department of systemic racism. It accused the department, which includes some 6,000 African American and Latino officers, of being indifferent to the sanctity of life of minorities in the city of Chicago.
If I were a black officer going back to my old neighborhood, I'd probably be. You'd have to have a police board watching me 24/7 because I feel for those officers trying to protect their old neighborhoods.
You know what's interesting too?
Boards and commissions don't do it. Sometimes hands-on criminals do it.
Well, and you know what's interesting is if you think about painting with a broad brush, a couple of Fridays ago when the Chicago Teachers Union and all of their socialist allies held that big rally downtown, there was an African-American woman who got on the stage, and I was there. I witnessed it. A teacher, private school teacher, got up on stage, said, I'm an angry black woman. She repeated that several times, and then she repeated, F the police. F the police, F the police. Now, should we take that as that's representative of all teachers, of all African-American female teachers?
Christian McQuarrie had a good column on that last week.
Right, and the response, of course, is, of course we shouldn't. No, that's silly. But because you have some bad actors in the Chicago Police Department, and there's no question you have presently and over the years, we should say all 12,000 officers are co-conspirators in a system designed to be indifferent to minority lives. That's essentially what the reports concluded.
They're risking their lives every day, going into bad neighborhoods, trying to save people. Sometimes criminals don't like getting arrested. Sometimes they get knocked around. Sometimes they don't deserve it. Sometimes they do. That's the bottom line of how things really work in the real world. And to divorce, to separate racism out and divorce it from, and there has been, and there is.
Of course.
But to support that from the political corruption of Chicago, the politics of tribes, and now the news story about the top brass, African-American, allegedly using influence to help their wives and girlfriends score high on the lieutenant's exam. I don't know if that's really fair politics. It's just politics.
Well, let's get a law enforcement perspective on this, someone who speaks in unvarnished lingo when it comes to these matters. He is friend of the show and Milwaukee County Sheriff David Clark. Sheriff Clark, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Dan, John, it's my pleasure. Good morning to you. Good morning to your listeners. Look, if Rahm Emanuel believes what's in this fraud report, then he alone is responsible for it, and he should resign immediately. Accountability starts at the top. His reign as mayor of the great city of Chicago has been a train wreck. His reign over the Chicago Police Department and the handling of the Laquan McDonald case has been a train wreck. Emanuel is an embattled mayor right now. He's under fire, and instead of accepting responsibility for his failure of leadership, he throws the fine men and women of the Chicago Police Department overboard to save his political backside. Sure. He's trying to distance himself from this by slapping together this hodgepodge of mainly, not all, mainly anti-police agenda-driven groups to blame the police. But look, his fingerprints are all over this. This report is politically motivated and fundamentally flawed. It starts out with a predetermined conclusion that the entire Chicago Police Department is racist. This is nothing more than a continuation of the war on police. And then they went about using nothing more. I read the executive summary. I have it in my hand. It uses nothing more than emotional and anecdotal claims to prove it. There's absolutely no evidence contained in this report to support these slanderous claims. This report it misuses data. It manipulates statistics. What research methodology did they use to put this together? I've done graduate level research. This report is junk.
I would agree with you that it's a political argument, and I said so in my weekend column, Sheriff, but you've been in law enforcement a long time.
38 years.
Are you telling me, and you're African-American, correct? So are you telling me that you didn't encounter police racism when you were a rookie, starting out on the job?
No, I didn't. And for anybody to just throw this claim out
You
there.
did not?
No, I didn't. And for anybody to, I think I was clear on that.
Mm-hmm.
For anybody to just throw this out there, it's like throwing spaghetti up against a wall, all right? That's a slanderous claim for someone to say, yeah, police officers are racist. And you know what? There's racism through every demographic and every discipline and every work type in America. Sometimes it's part of the human condition, okay? But if you're asking me that the men and women that I worked with at street level and I work with today come in with malice in their heart, with racist intent to go about doing their daily duty, is wrong. I will not stand for it. Are police officers imperfect? Sure, because it's part of the human condition. But when this stuff happens, we and me as a law enforcement executive, it is my job to root these people who don't believe in this, don't belong in this profession, out of this profession, and not have the entire profession or an entire police department, like the fine men and women of the Chicago Police Department, to have their integrity, their character, their service, their sacrifice maligned because of an aberration like Laquan McDonald. Nobody, I shouldn't say nobody, correct myself there. Very few would justify what happened and from what we saw, but I don't know all the evidence in that case. But to think that we need to fundamentally change the way we police in America because of Mike Brown, because of Eric Garner, because of Freddie Gray, because of Laquan McDonald is wrong. That would be like trying to fundamentally change the medical community because of a botched surgical procedure. You don't do that. You fix that situation there, and you leave the rest of it alone. This is going to be a disaster for the city of Chicago if any of these recommendations are implemented. You know who will pay the highest toll? Good, law-abiding black people in the Chicago ghetto.
You know what's that's interesting, Sheriff Clark, is that it's very difficult to find somebody who will speak with moral clarity, who, even though they feel the same way that you do about this report here in Chicago. We had Dean Angelo, who's the president of the FOP in Chicago, on, and he certainly went after the report, making some of the points you did in more muted tones. And I've talked to friends of mine that are Chicago Police Department officers and administrators, and they feel the same way. But it's a political culture where people are afraid to speak out as well. And I wonder, when you talk to law enforcement around the country, if you find that to be the case, or if maybe this is something that's particular to Chicago.
No, it's not particular to Chicago, which is why I'm sticking my nose into what's going on down there. It's only 80 miles up the road, by the way, or down the road, I should say. But look, this is an assault on the profession of policing, which is why I do have something to say about what's going on in Chicago. They're not just trying to fundamentally change the Chicago Police Department, but they're trying to do it all across America. This is going to have disastrous results. It's going to get citizens killed. It's going to get police officers unnecessarily injured and killed because of it. You have people who have never done this job a day in their life trying to fix it. That's why I use the medical community analogy. I don't know anything about the medical community. Why would somebody put me on a task force to change the medical community? I'm not educated on the subject of medical science. I've never done it. It would be inane to have something like this. If we want to have a discussion, and I'm all for this, about some things that are bothering the community in terms of how you police in the ghetto, first of all, it would give us a chance to explain why we have to do some of the things we do. A lot of this is based on the fact that many people who don't like the way we have to police the ghetto, by the way, it's because you don't have enough informal social controls in the ghetto. You have all these pathologies that require assertive policing. Maybe they'd have a better understanding. We could hear their concerns, and maybe we could make some adjustments, not a total transformation of this profession. This is wrong. I'm going to continue to push back on this.
Sheriff, I don't mean to interrupt, but Sheriff Clark, so in Chicago, investigative stops year over year are down 90%. 100,000 plus fewer stops this year as of April 15th than last year, which is just a staggering number. And you hear, you've got police that are gun shy, but then you hear from residents that say, well, wait a second. One of the arguments that's made, wait a second, if police aren't willing to do their job, then that's a problem too, and that's on police. What do you say to that?
Yeah, see, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. It's pick your poison. When we do policing that's effective, reasonable, and constitutional, certain groups, I'm not blaming everybody in the city of Chicago. I wouldn't do that in any city in America. Then they don't like it. Then when they get what they ask for, this inane idea of no-go zones, stop all of this racist stuff, these traffic stops, then they say, oh, they're not doing their job and they need to be gotten rid of. I'll tell you what, if these blowhards think this is so easy, then they ought to come out here and try it. Like I said, the reason why we have to have so much assertive policing, not just in the Chicago ghetto, but in the Milwaukee ghetto, the New York, the Ferguson ghetto, the Baltimore ghetto, is because you don't have informal social controls that keep crime and violence in check, like effective parenting, all right? The fact that you have inescapable poverty. Poverty's become a lifestyle. That's Rahm Emanuel's fault because he hasn't found any remedies for that. You have failing K-12 public education. That's an informal social control. Schools, right? Failing schools. That's Rahm Emanuel's fault. You have massive unemployment with brown and black people, not only in the city of Chicago, all across America. Rahm Emanuel, as mayor, is supposed to come up with remedies to make sure people can find meaningful work. Meaningful work is an informal social control that will give idle people less time to engage in crime and violence. When you look at all these pathologies and the fact that Rahm Emanuel has no answer for these pathologies, it's easy to just throw the police under the bus and blame the police. That's what's going on here. That's the political motivation.
He is Milwaukee County Sheriff David Clark with an idea that about 70% of the city could get around Rahm Emanuel resigning. Sheriff Clark, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate your time as always.
It's always my pleasure. Enjoy your day.
And he joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
Connect with Dan and Amy using the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
Let's talk some weather, man. It's partly sunny, very warm, high 80. Lower near the lake tonight, mostly cloudy, low 51. Cooler tomorrow with partial sunshine. And to all you guys weighing in on Facebook, yeah, I'm having fun. Okay? Thank you.
All right, John, good morning. We'll take a look at the traffic, Mr. Cass and Mr. Proft. It's really slow going on 8094 westbound from Grant to Klein Avenue with a crash in the two left lanes. Eastbound slow Indianapolis Boulevard to Klein where one left lane is closed. Eden's 21 minutes, Lake Cook to Montrose, outbound 35. The Kennedy, 50 minutes O'Hare to downtown, but heavier in the Express, outbound an hour and 5 minutes downtown to the airport. The Eisenhower, an hour and 5 minutes, Thorndale to downtown, outbound 58 minutes. The Stevenson, 58 minutes, 355 to Lakeshore Drive, outbound 55, crash at California on the left shoulder. The Ryans jammed in the express lanes from Garfield to 47th. There's a rollover in the two right lanes. 22 minutes, 95th to downtown. That's in the locals. Outbound, it's clear. Plays on Lakeshore Drive, not bad at all. It is slow southbound 18th to the Stevenson and northbound from Roosevelt to Jackson. I'm Jim Talamonte in the Guardian Security Services Traffic Center.
If you're in business, you know the importance of communications, telephony, and internet services can mean success and profits. Chicago-based Innovative Networks is a complete provider of high-tech voice and data services that allow your phones and data to efficiently follow you anywhere in the office or across the world. For companies of all sizes and industries, Innovative Networks provides state-of-the-art equipment, installation, and maintenance for a minimal monthly fee. Your company can enjoy the benefits of superior communications and greater profits. Innovative Networks is offering AM 560 listeners with the business this special deal. Ready? Pay zero upfront plus up to 80% savings over major providers. For your free business communications consultation, call Innovative Networks, an accredited and award-winning Better Business Bureau service provider at 855-GO-4-INET or visit go4inet.com. That's 855-GO-4-INET. Innovative Networks, communication, technology, and reliability for Chicagoland business. That number again, 855-GO-4-INET.
Running a business is tough these days. From a president who claimed it,
You didn't build that. Somebody else made that happen.
to the mountains and mountains of taxes and regulations here in Illinois. But many companies, big and small, have persevered, serving their customers and communities. If that's you and your business, then AM 560 The Answer wants to celebrate your success and tell your story. It's the AM 560 Business Tour 2016, presented by Signature Bank. This spring, Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson will be broadcasting live from businesses in Illinois with success stories of overcoming the odds and thriving in spite of the challenging business environment. If your company fits this description, then we want to know about it so we can consider broadcasting from your location. Tell us your story. Visit 560theanswer.com/business and submit your information. That's 560theanswer.com/business. Sponsored in part by Flex Execs Management Solutions.
Banks have been foreclosing on people's homes at an unprecedented rate. Enough is enough. It's time to fight back and level the playing field. The attorneys of Bridges & O and Associates have an intense understanding of foreclosure law. Experienced attorneys will passionately litigate against and negotiate with your bank for a permanent loan restructuring. They are proud to help educate and protect families, keeping you in your home, reducing your stress, and giving you time to get back on your feet. Don't just sit there and lose your home. They can put you back in control. Get the upper hand when negotiating with your bank with their free evaluation. Then Bridges & O and Associates will develop a plan that will help your family now, 3 months from now, 3 years from now, even 5 years from now. Call 224-513-1231 or visit FightIllinoisForeclosures.com. Get real answers from a real foreclosure defense law firm. 224-513-1231 or FightIllinoisForeclosures.com. Bridges & O and Associates. You have rights. Don't give up your home.
AM 560, The Answer.
Dan and John Cass in for Amy. I told you to cinch it up and hunker down when Sheriff Clark comes to town because he throws nothing but heat, and he certainly did in that segment. Let's get some reactions from Art on the Northwest Side. You're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are you?
Morning.
All right. Two things I'll bring up. First of all, I would ask the police union or the police department to invite every alderman once a month to wear a protective jacket and ride in those communities for an 8-hour shift with the tech teams and show them what is going on. Second of all, I agree with the sheriff about people that put these programs together. They have no idea. I remember when I was with the fire department's 911 system, when they put our new computer system together, and I was one of the watch commanders that had to go and work it. They had no idea. They must have had people from Dominic's and Jewel put it together because they were sending engines 45 blocks away to a response. And naturally, you're going to kill people. I brought up one of the scenarios to Mayor Daley and Commissioner Altman at the time. He got completely upset with me and said to me, he said, "You're all better." I said, "Yeah. You never let any of our people who run the system do something about it."
All right. Thanks for the call, Art. Appreciate it. Text from Chicago police officer. We need two of him, referring to Clark, one as mayor and one as top cop. Greg in Des Plaines.
Hey, I always love to listen to Sheriff Clark, but I just had a vision this morning in my head listening to him that Donald Trump and Ted Cruz should be arm wrestling over which one of these guys gets to pick him as a VP, whoever wins, because that guy is incredible.
Thanks for the call, Greg. Philip in Blue Island, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
See, Clark is he's brainwashed or brain dead. For him to say, even as a rookie, I mean, no racism. He didn't see it. He didn't hear it. He didn't witness it. He didn't partake in it.
He said he didn't. He said he didn't experience it personally.
I know, but even as a sheriff now, it's like the police departments all over America are perfect. They don't do anything wrong.
No.
I mean, because the man is out of his mind, basically.
All right. Thanks for the call, Philip. What do you think? Is Sheriff Clark out of his mind?
I don't think he's out of his mind. I think when you answer the question, was there racism when you were, 30 years ago? I think you could say, yeah, but you could say no matter what people's feelings are on the job, when they go to help somebody or deal with a crime, that's the main thing that you're talking about.
And I also think that the point that you made in your column yesterday is an important one, and it's not made enough, which is the police, like every public institution, are an extension of the larger political culture and the government that lords over them. So to Clark's point about, hey, if everything in that report is true and Ron believes it, then he should resign because it's a failure of the fifth floor. I like that idea a lot.
It's definitely a failure of the Democratic Party in urban cities, and that's what you're going to see in the next 3 months.
Hear about the big stories of the day then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
CertaPro painters are here for every stage of your life, from moving into a new home, creating the ideal nursery, to reinventing your living space. CertaPro painting experts create the perfect setting while you do life. They came to our home and brightened our walls and our moods so very quiet they wouldn't wake a baby. But the best part? They clean up after themselves so you don't have to do it. And now that spring is here, it is the perfect time to spruce up your home's exterior. Take a look at your home. Do you see chipping, peeling, fading? Well, leave it to CertaPro painting experts to refresh, renew, and protect your biggest investment, your home. Now is the time to call for your free estimate and schedule your exterior painting project. 1-800-GO-CERTA, 1-800-GOCERTA. That's CERTA with a C. Or visit CertaPro.com today. CertaPro.com. CertaPro Painters, we do painting, you do life. Each CertaPro Painters business is independently owned and operated.
Gentlemen and John Cass, it's Dan Proft here. You may have seen the news story on NBC Nightly News recently about new medical research on the benefits of testosterone treatment. Low T Center and their national medical director were featured. You've been hearing me talk about the Low T Center a lot lately because when it comes to your health, you should go to a medical provider that you can trust and that specializes in testosterone. That's why I went to Low T Center and met with their medical staff. Their physicians exclusively diagnose and treat men with low T. If you're a man over 40 and have noticed a decline in energy, stamina, or libido, you may have low testosterone. Low T makes you feel tired and grumpy, can raise your cholesterol and cause weight gain. Low T Center's experienced medical staff will educate you on the benefits and risks of testosterone replacement. At Low T Center, their service is covered by most health insurance, and you'll know your results within 45 minutes. So call today, 630-409-4305. Tell them Dan Prof sent you. That number, 630-409-4305. Or go to lowtcenter.com. Coming up at 8:38, John Cass and I are just back from the White Privilege Conference in Philadelphia. We've gone all 17 years, if I'm remembering correctly, and we'll have a report from the front lines after we check the headlines with Mike Scott.
Dan and John, good morning. 56 outside, warming up again today toward a high of 80. American military personnel joining earthquake relief efforts in Japan. Meantime, in South America, rescue crews in Ecuador are working frantically to try and reach those they believe are still alive in collapsed buildings along that country's western Pacific coast. Flash floods sweeping across Houston this morning. Nearly a foot of rain fell in nearly 6 hours. Police have made more than 70 life-threatening rescues. The Supreme Court takes up a huge immigration case today. Justices will hear oral arguments on President Obama's executive actions in 2014. Ted Cruz is addressing New York values one day ahead of the primary in that state. The Texas senator is speaking this morning on ABC's Good Morning America.
Because we're tired of politicians, whether it's de Blasio or Obama or Hillary Clinton, who over and over and over again side with the criminals and the looters rather than the people who are risking their lives to keep us safe.
Cruz pointed to the moment when New York City police stood up and turned their backs on Mayor Bill de Blasio last year. Bernie Sanders not worried about being down in the polls heading into tomorrow's New York primary on NBC's Today Show.
Those are the public polls, but the bottom line is let's look at the real poll tomorrow. Generally speaking, polling has us underestimated how we do in elections. We were 25 points down in Michigan. We ended up winning.
Sanders says his campaign does have a message that is resonating in New York. The morning commute for riders on the CTA Blue Line seriously delayed after a person jumped on the tracks and was killed on the northwest side. A Chicago man charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder in last June's shooting death of 2 men on the city's west side. Jose Ortiz was arrested in the city on Friday. 2 firefighters are recovering after battling a northwest side blaze. The fire started yesterday morning in the basement of a home near Devon and Karloff. And a man is facing felony trespassing charges after police say he dashed onto the field during a Chicago Fire game. Anthony Lopez and another boy are accused of running onto the Toyota Field pitch while the Fire was playing Montreal. Lopez did make contact with the player. Fire lost the game 2-1. Chicago sports, NHL first-round playoff action. Blues over the Blackhawks, 3-2. On the Diamond Sunday, Tampa Bay over the White Sox, 3-2, while Colorado beat the Cubs 2-0. The news is a service of Hum by Verizon. It's the technology designed to make your car smarter, safer, and more connected. Hum is easy. Just plug it in, and you'll get vehicle diagnostics, emergency assistance, and pinpoint roadside assistance. Get some peace of mind, smarter, safer, more connected car at hum.com now. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Mike Gallagher is tired of the double standard with race.
Thanks for the endorsement, Bill.
Sorry, Hillary. I was running on CP time.
Cautious politician time.
That was flat out racist. Hillary Clinton ought to be called out as a racist, and yet there's nothing but silence when liberal Democrats do something that is that offensive.
The Mike Gallagher Show, weekdays at 9, right before Dennis Prager at 11 on AM 560. The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Papa Nicholas Coffee. Papa Nicholas. Best beans, best roast, best coffee.
If you want to work until you drop, reduce your standard of living in retirement, or lose more of your hard-earned money in the stock market, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to generate a steady, predictable income, I'm talking real wealth and financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. A free report is now available that reveals the money-making secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. It reveals how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, and wealth-building power without risking your money in the Wall Street casino. To get your free special report, visit bankonyourself.com. That's bankonyourself.com.
Hey, Mom, I got your message. Do you need me to come home early?
Hi, dear. We're all doing fine. The kids haven't slowed down all day, and thanks to Blue Emu, neither have I.
But I thought you said...
Well, I tried your father's Blue Emu Maximum Arthritis Relief Cream. It worked fast to relieve the pain in my achy muscles and joints.
Blue Emu, huh?
That's right, and it's odor-free.
Blue Emu Maximum Arthritis Relief. Beat the pain and enjoy life. Available at Walmart and Walgreens.
It is 8:36. Let's get an update on the roads in our Guardian Security Services Traffic Center. Here is Jim Talamonte.
Thanks, Mike. CTA Blue Line trains headed toward Forest Park are again running, but they're skipping Belmont Station after the earlier incident, killing a person on the track. However, O'Hare-bound trains are only running, they're not running, I should say, between Western and Jefferson Park due to that situation. On the Edens Expressway, 21 minutes is the travel time from Lake Cook to Montrose, but outbound 35. To Kennedy, 50 minutes, O'Hare to downtown, but slower in the Express. Outbound, looking at an hour from downtown to the airport. Inbound Eisenhower, an hour and 5 minutes, Thorndale to the post office. Outbound 58 minutes. Stevenson, 57 minutes, 3:55 to Lakeshore Drive. Outbound 55, crash at California in the left lane. Ryan jammed in the Express, 63rd to 47th. Roll over the two right lanes. Outbound, it's fine. Tollways still have significant delays, though they're improving a bit. 80-94. Traffic is slow westbound I-65 to Klein Avenue, with a crash moved to the left shoulder. Traffic answers when you need them most. I'm Jim Talamonte, AM 560, The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Your official Chicagoland weather forecast from the aircomfort.com Weather Center. Partly sunny, very warm today. A high near 80, cloudy and 51 overnight. Currently 53 at O'Hare. Next news coming up at 9. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by the Ayn Rand Institute and the Yaron Brook Show. Heard Saturday afternoons at 4 here on AM 560, The Answer.
Hey, before you read about it on Facebook or Twitter, well, hear about it from your friends. Find out what today's big stories really mean with me, Sean Hannity, today at 2, right here on AM 560, The Answer.
Good morning, Dan and John Cass, Chicago Tribune columnist, in for Amy this morning.
It's been a privilege to sit in for Amy. Thanks to you and Amy for letting me do that.
It's a privilege to have you. A white privilege. That's the kind of privilege it is, because it's the only kind of privilege I know, John.
I don't know. I'm Greek, though. Greeks were only made white by executive order of Mayor Richard J. Daley on the night Jackie Kennedy got married to Aristotle Onassis.
Is that
before that, we weren't considered really white.
That's
but
the
that
moment.
night, there was an executive order issued.
Well, I wonder, as the parent of two young men who are matriculating at a couple of our nation's finest institutions of higher learning.
A lot of money.
How you think that's going? Are they reporting back from the front lines in terms of some of the lobotomized totalitarianism they face on campus?
Actually, I was hoping that it would get like that and there would be confrontations and I would have plenty to write about, without naming the university. But they missed the Greek Independence Day parade so they could go to one of the boys' colleges or universities to celebrate their birthday, at which time they became legal. So I think legal drinking age. So I think their main idea is, can I drink beer at midnight legally? And yeah, they did.
Well, they must not be going to DePaul because
No, they're not.
At DePaul, remember Justice Brandeis famously said the cure for offensive speech is more speech, not enforced silence. The cure, according to DePaul University, for offensive speech is to ban chalk.
What the?
Students will be able to perambulate around the quad at DePaul and Lincoln Park without a fear of etchings on the sidewalk that may leave them aghast.
Are you talking about the chalkening?
Yeah, the chalkening.
The terror?
The chalkening of offensive message like Trump 16, because that threw the campus at Emory University into an uproar. Well, DePaul is getting ahead of that. Will no longer allow students to chalk political messages on sidewalks of its campus because of the offensive, hurtful, it hurts, and divisive nature of pro-Trump chalking found on campus last week at DePaul, as was found at Emory. Now, I assume DePaul will continue these proactive measures to ban paper, because you could make a flyer and post that somewhere on campus.
You know who Willie Lloyd is?
No.
Willie Lloyd was one of, I think he's dead now, but he was one of the main bosses of the leader of the Vice Lords. Okay? Vice Lords, the street gang.
Uh-huh.
Guess what? He used to lecture at DePaul, okay, for freshmen coming in, like exploring Chicago through the eyes of the gang lord or something like that. That's okay. But some kid writing Trump 2016 or, God forbid, Cardinals 2016, they're all freaking out. They have to shut down the First Amendment.
We have very sensitive adult children on our college campuses, and but the Willie Lloyd thing, of course he would. I mean, he has a life experience that few have to impart upon our youngsters. And I mean, you think about that. This is what we do in Illinois. We find places in academia for our domestic terrorists, for our gang leaders, a James Kilgore at U of I, a Bernadine Dorn at Northwestern, a Bill Ayers at UIC. Of course, a Willie Lloyd at DePaul.
I'm touching my head in fear.
Not to mention, of course, that would be consistent with another quote-unquote Catholic university. Is it DePaul?
Catholic?
Yeah.
As in Roman Catholic?
Well,
I kind of believe that, and I'm not going to bring up the Nicene Creed here, but kind of believe that there's certain rules that apply. It's called the Creed. It applies, I thought, to Catholic universities too. Apparently not.
There's a lot of Catholic Jesuit universities that are essentially places for Catholics who hate Catholicism. Notre Dame's one of them as well. Marquette.
Are there any? Really? Marquette, yeah, because you've had the
John McAdams, terminated.
Are there any Catholic universities, true Catholic?
Oh, yeah. University of Dallas, for example. There are some. But they're few and far between. They're few and far between in general, institutions of true higher learning. And a part of it is, I learned about this at the White Privilege Conference.
Wasn't that great?
In Philly over the weekend.
We went out like white guys.
Saw you there.
Privileging all over the place.
Yeah, it was
button-down shirts, striped with little, khakis and our blue blazers. Yeah.
I thought you looked lovely with the sweater tied around your neck.
The pastel one.
The people,
just like Ken.
The people in Philly seem to like that very much. This was the 17th annual White Privilege Conference in Philadelphia that was held this past weekend. And John Cass and I have gone every year. It's always fun.
Right. We invoke ourselves, our privilege.
And I thought Heather Hackman was really the star of the show. Heather Hackman.
And that's a real name.
Yeah, no, real name. She operates Hackman Consulting Group. She's a former professor of multicultural education at St. Cloud State University in Minnesota.
Love that severe kind of bull-headed haircut with the Hillary scarf pinned. That was good.
Yeah, and she made several excellent points. For example, teachers shouldn't even bother teaching if they aren't committed to promoting social justice. Teachers have to teach students to become activists as well as teachers. Hackman said she really focused on trying to end racist white supremacy, which permeates all aspects of campus life. I mean, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, John.
That's how we designed it as white. When we became white people in 1966, that's when we, really got cracking there.
I was taking careful notes so I could impart this wisdom on our listeners today, coming out of the conference. And Ms. Hackman had this to say about the racial narrative of white, as she so eloquently termed it. The narrative of U.S. public education, individual assessments, competition, outcome over process. I care more about your grades than how you're doing. Discipline, where we care more about your attendance and making sure you're not tardy than we care about your relationships. Proper English being spoken, hierarchical power, and heavy goal orientation. Those are all things that need to be discarded.
Grades are just so whatever.
That's right.
All right.
Let me tell you how profound Hackman's reviews.
Can't we just
were.
Smoke bongs and read Khalil Gibran in our dorm room?
Wow. Yeah.
Somebody used to do that. That's why he's no longer at the University of Illinois.
Well,
1974, whoever that was.
And she's such an innovator, Miss Hackman. She once let a student. She recounted this anecdote for us.
Yeah.
She once let a student complete an essay assignment as a graphic novel. She also allowed students to write in non-standard English or even foreign languages she couldn't read because, said Heather Hackman, if I don't know your language, that's my issue. All I need to know is that you're thinking about it. I don't really care how you do it.
Not that I can tell how you're thinking about it. If you're thinking about it in terms of chalk or crayon, I can't really, but you're thinking, kind of.
As far as
what I feel like doing right now? I feel like going to the State University of New York in Albany, riding on a bus, and screaming racism.
Well,
you hear about that? While that's going on, while the white conference is going on, in Albany, 3 students who alleged that they were assaulted, 3 black women, are now before a grand jury.
Right.
On the charge of maybe
manufacturing.
lying.
Yeah.
But is that white privilege then, according to the conference?
Well, it's the white hierarchical power structure that forced them to lie.
Get some chalk, will you, please?
Also, this at Harvard, John. Mm-hmm. I know you're very concerned about the crimson and what's going on. And
crimson and cream. Oh, that's IU.
Yeah. This is another case study why William F. Buckley famously said he'd rather be ruled by the first 1,000 people in the Boston telephone book than the entire faculty at Harvard. The undergraduate clubs, the Skull and Bones, all these single-sex secret clubs. Yeah. Right. Well, they're going the way of the dinosaurs because there's a real problem at Harvard, said Vice President Joe Biden, taking a break from curing cancer. We have to get rid of the fraternities on campus if they contribute to sexual misconduct, which, of course, they do just by their existence.
Right, because they're a bunch of college guys who are thinking of sex. And that, by its nature, should be indictable.
Also, for 225 years, no one realized that these single-sex social organizations at Harvard were facades for gender discrimination, gender assumptions, privilege, and exclusivity that undermine Harvard's most foundational aspirations and commitments. That change when Drew Faust came to town. Woman, apparently.
Drew?
She's not going to abolish the clubs overnight, but she's got a task force that wants to mandate that the all-male clubs admit women and vice versa, or else the threat is to ban simultaneous membership in final clubs and college enrollment, meaning the university could start expelling kids who join clubs that don't integrate the sexes.
What about if she's part of Emily's list? Mary Steenburgen, where I met Mary Steenburgen and Barbara Walters on the same sidewalk.
Did you get
outside gathering for Hillary?
Was Ted dancing?
I felt like I was standing in the icy river up to my my navel. That's how it felt.
Was Ted dancing there?
In blackface or just regular?
Either.
No, I didn't see.
I find either.
But I mean, if you're a member of that kind of organization, what is that? That's okay. Isn't that all right?
It's all confusing to me. I'm going to have to wait till next year's White Privilege Conference to ask that question and get an answer from Heather Hackman.
We should get a bus of listeners to go with us.
Ralph and Rantoul will be in the front seat of that bus. Thanks for joining us, Ralph.
Well, I'll be driving it. I'll make sure that if there's seatbelts on that bus, nobody's strapped in, too.
We're whipping them off, man. Just going for the kegger.
You know, white privilege, back when you became a white person, John, I think I was a new initiate becoming a white person. I teach at a couple of different places, economics and finance. Most of the students I find aren't even writing in English anymore. I'm just not sure they know it. They're using whatever. And, you know, what I'm kind of surprised about...
Yeah.
Who knows? What I'm surprised about is that Biden at Harvard, I'm sure that he was looking for the hair club for men because he thought that was a frat, and he, you know, being a former member of the hair club for men, I'm sure that he'd be looking for the party that they'd be having.
He's not only a member, he's the vice president.
But y'all had changed.
I don't understand what all the hubbub is about. I think that, believe it or not, I just taught an ethics class where the textbook that we were using, in fact, encouraged the use of one of those white privilege exercises as an icebreaker. I refused, and we talked about it in class a little bit, and I said, you know, really, this is just so offensive to me that if any of you think that we need to do something like this, I encourage you to probably choose another ethics class because I'm just not going there with this one.
Thanks for the call, Ralph. It's a long march back in academia, boys and girls.
It's news, opinion, insight. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
You know what? There's weather out there. And speaking about the weather, it's partly sunny and very warm today. High in the 80s in the western suburbs, mostly cloudy, low 51 tonight. And tomorrow, as I don't fish with Jim Telemonte, it'll be a little bit cooler.
All right, John, thanks so much. Inbound Kennedy's really heavy now, 1 hour and 10 minutes. O'Hare to downtown, outbound 56 minutes. The Ike, 1 hour and 10 minutes. Thorndale to the Loop. Stevenson, 1 hour, 3:55 to Lakeshore Drive.